Did you say what kind of animal it was that attacked her?
So yeah, they're saying it's some type of animal attack. Statistically, there's been more animal attacks, mysterious deaths, people gone missing.
In other news, local authorities remain perplexed by the animal attacks.
What attacked you in the woods?
An animal. What else could it have been?
Welcome to It Was an Animal Attack, your court of the supernatural drama series. I'm Sandile.
And I'm Fadzai.
And our recess is over, at least for the moment. We are in the second session of the trial of Damon Salvatore. I am still your... Ooh, let me count real quick. Prosecution, defense, and bailiff. And Fadzai over there, our judge, prosecution, defense, witnesses? I think that's what it was. It's been a little bit. We're recording this on a new day. Tough to keep track of this kangaroo court. But anyways, yeah, just a real judge. I motion for a quick session for revisions. The prosecution has one more piece of evidence to include for the case. We present, I don't know, Exhibit Z at this point. In season 2, in the first episode, which we discussed the instance of Damon coming to Elena's room after Katherine turned him down and trying to force her to love him and then killing Jeremy when she didn't. I forgot that in that scene, Damon forces himself on Elena. He kisses her while she is fighting him off. And I rewatched, because I went back just to sort of scrub through as I was editing and watching that scene. I was like, oh, it's worse than what I described. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Not like it's anything new. There is a pattern of assault and harassment regarding Damon Salvatore. So, yeah, that's all. I guess we can move on from that. We'll pick up where we left off at the mid-season finale of season 3. This was the botched attempt at Klaus's life, which leaves Stefan free of compulsion and on a revenge plot against Klaus now, and Damon and Elena deciding they're going to figure out how to survive a life without Stefan, because I guess Stefan, without his humanity, has simply not returned and is off doing his own thing. Yeah, so at this point, the main plot stuff is like the coffins. They've got all these coffins that Klaus has been trucking around that are his family. It's all the originals. And Stefan has been given a glorious purpose by the 100 Dead Witches. He's there in the 100 Dead Witches house with all the coffins, and he's like, my fight against Klaus. It's not his best look. It's not his best time. We're not going to talk too much about it. And so Damon, who is trying to figure out what the hell's going on with Stefan, eventually beats it out of him and then joins in on the plan. So that's where Damon is at this point, just helping with this coffin plot. I think at some point when him and Elena are like, I don't know, going back and forth about the emotional turmoil at the time, Damon's talking about how he's like reckoning with his guilt regarding his feelings for and his pursuit of Elena now that Stefan is like off the rails. But then in that scene, as the scene is about to resolve, he stops and he's like, no, actually, if I'm gonna be guilty about something, then I might as well just do it. And then he goes over and then he kisses Elena, and it's this huge passionate kiss. I think it's their first kiss post Stefan and Elena break up. Before this, they've only kissed on Damon's deathbed when he was dying of a werewolf bite. Is that correct?
Yes.
If you exclude when he forces a kiss on Elena at the beginning of season 2.
And Damon kissing Katherine thinking it was her at the end of season 1.
The failed kiss. But no, this one is like, okay, you know, get your life. You know, Stefan's off doing whatever. Stelena is fully broken up at this point. Do what you want to do. Live your life. Yeah, he's working with Stefan to fight Klaus. He is harassing Meredith Fell because Rick and Meredith Fell are starting up a thing. Is like worried that Meredith is not who she says she is.
He's worried that Meredith is the serial killer that's in town, I believe.
But he eventually finds out that, yes, she knows about vampires and she's using vampire blood to, like, help people in the hospital. So that doesn't go anywhere. It's super important.
During this coffin saga, I do love that it's established that Damon still can't get into the 100 Dead Witches house without his daylight ring being switched off.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Stefan, who hasn't been the greatest guy all season, is still allowed to come and go as he pleases.
The witches are like, you know what? You're wilding out, but we're still aligned, and we still have a soft spot for you, so you can stay. I think it's hilarious. Yeah, eventually, because Damon's like trying to get involved in this plan that Stefan does not want him involved in. Eventually, when he's going to this 100 Dead Witches house, he leads Klaus there because he doesn't realize Klaus is tracking him. And so when he goes there looking for Stefan, Klaus is there waiting for him. And so now Klaus just knows about this place. Damon, because he's now been accepted into the house at Stefan's request because he's going to be helping with this plot to take down the originals. Damon can now go in. And so he's like, yeah, sure, come through. You can just come see what you want. And then he brings Klaus in, Klaus not knowing that they will strip the enchantment from him.
Does Klaus burn or does he just get...
He gets the aneurysm. You're right. He doesn't burn.
Yeah, he gets the aneurysm. Klaus wouldn't burn because he's a hybrid and hybrids never burn.
Wow, what a fun time to be a hybrid. So Klaus gets in. He's like, show me what you're hiding. And Damon's like, well, the witches aren't about that, and you're an enemy to them, so they're not going to do that. And Klaus is like, well, the witches will be pleased to know that I know all their family lines, and I have the time and the means to wipe them from this earth. And I know witches care about their bloodlines and their families, so if you're interested in keeping that going, show me the money. And indeed, they show him the money and reveal a bunch of the coffins. Not all of them, fortunately. I think they're able to get one out in the time that, like, Damon is leading Klaus in. They return the coffins to them, but Damon has the wherewithal, fortunately, to yank one of the daggers out of Elijah, who's in one of these coffins. When Klaus is later, like, with his coffins in his house, is there a fight going on? Because I feel like Elijah wakes up and interrupts a fight. And he's like, so, Nick Klaus, what did I miss?
I think Klaus is just talking to one of his hybrid slaves. And then the poor dude gets his heart yanked out from the back in Elijah's signature move.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And I mean, credit where credit is due. Damon, it was smart to pull the dagger out of Elijah, just to throw a spanner in the works and be like, hey, last time we saw this guy, he was betrayed by his brother. So he's probably not going to be too happy. And he's like the only person who could possibly be strong enough to intimidate Klaus in any way.
To actually take him down.
Yeah.
After this, there's this dinner, right? Because there's this dinner between Klaus, Elijah, Stefan, and Damon. I guess parlaying for something, either for like the remaining coffin, Elena's blood, because that's all Klaus is ever about. It's just a general discussion of just like, you know, the original brothers and the Salvatore brothers and the parallels drawn between them. They talk about Tatia, the Nordic doppelganger from 1,000 years ago. The like, because I was gonna say original doppelganger, and I was like, that's not true. Yeah, they talk about how she was also a love interest for both Elijah and Klaus, in the same way that Elena is here between Stefan and Damon, and it's causing this rift between brothers. And it's like, I don't know why, other than Katherine, it's like really weird that they're always putting the consequences of their choices to pursue these women on the women themselves. Yeah, you should never let a woman get between you. It's like the woman was living her life, frankly. It's like one of you pursued her and she was like, cool. And then the other one showed up and it's like, okay, now what are we supposed to do? So this whole conversation goes back and forth and back and forth. And there are these like servant women hanging around for them to drink blood and serve them drinks. It's all very gross and weird.
During the dinner, Klaus says something interesting if you know your TVD behind the scenes lore.
Okay.
As Stefan and Damon are like negotiating and saying, we give you your coffins and your family and you leave town and you leave us alone. And Klaus is making fun of them for their, you know, their never ending battle over Elena. And then he tells them that, you know what, the truth is, you're both bad for Elena. And he says something along the lines of, what she really needs is to get rid of you lot and marry a nice human boy, like the football player, the blonde one. I like how he interjects the blonde one. He's like, not Tyler, who is undead. The blonde one.
We need to make clear.
I don't know whether it's Stefan or Damon. One of them rightfully points out that, oh, you just want Elena to get married to a human so that she can have children, and every couple of centuries you'll have a new betrothed doppelganger. Mm-hmm. But Julie Plec had stated their nebulous intention for the end of Vampire Diaries, apparently, as early as season 3 when the other side had was established was that she wanted neither Stefan nor Damon to end up with Elena. Their nebulous sort of ending that they were thinking they might do one day would be that both Stefan and Damon die and Elena moves on, potentially going back to Matt, which is insane to think about considering how over each other they were for most of the series.
Yeah.
But eventually going back to Matt, and then she just had in her mind that this final scene would be Stefan and Damon like watching Elena from the other side go off to live her life, and then they like drift off into the sweet hereafter.
Honestly, outside of the Matt thing, that's not an ending I would have. I could have gotten behind that, because it's like, on the whole, like, her life is wrecked because these boys showed up. Like, I would be fine with her ending up with neither of them. But Matt is just, I like Matt, but like, that's not an ending, and an ending anyone would want, because a lot of people don't care for Matt, which is fine. And just because, like you say, they're like they're friends by like the end of season 1.
Yeah,
they've been friends the whole time, but they're like back to like, we're solid, we're friends.
By the end of season 1, Matt is very in love with Caroline, and that's what he works through for most of season 2. Like, it's strange, but I mean, you know, a CW series, you can always find your way back to an ex.
Oh, that would have been one of those pairings that just like would have split the fandom. No, actually, it might have united the fandom. Everyone would have unanimously voted, this is not something we wanted.
I mean, you know what? As weird as it would have been, I would have still been more comfortable with that ending than some of the endings we got in another Supernatural show, Teen Wolf.
Oh no! There's not enough time. So yeah, this dinner devolves eventually. Elijah eventually undaggers all of his siblings, and they all come back to beat Klaus's ass. And Elijah's like, okay boys, talking to the Salvatores, you can head out. This is a family affair. The Salvatores then run off because they've got the text from Bonnie. Bonnie and Abby, her mother, who she's found because she got a vision from the witches. She's been helping Stefan with these coffins because there's one that they weren't able to crack. So she and her mom, she's brought her mom back to Mystic Falls, and they're trying to crack open this coffin. They get it like a little bit open, and then Bonnie goes off to text the Salvatores about it. They go to the cave where they were trying to crack this last coffin open and find both of them just on the ground unconscious, the coffin open and empty. The episode concludes with, of course, Esther Michelson having come back and saying she wants to reunite her family, which kicks us off into the Michelson arc. There's the party that the Michelsons throw. Esther's throwing this party to, you know, settle themselves into Mystic Falls, but really, really to kill all of her children. And she's invited Elena to this party. At this point now, because they've been doing this plan with the coffins, Stefan is now a foot back in to the MFG. And so they're both at the Gilbert house when this letter arrives for Elena. Elena reads the letter because they're busy trying to be like, this was supposed to be our one weapon against Klaus in the originals. And she's just like, kind of back now. Like, what's happening?
Playing house.
Yeah, she's there playing house. Like, she's supposed to rip his heart out. Elena gets this letter. She reads it. She finds out there's this party. And on the back, direct address from Esther Michelson saying, Elena, darling, I think we should meet. Us gals need to stick together. So immediately, as there always is, Damon is like, no, you're not going. You don't get to decide. Stefan's like, I don't know, this could be useful. I think Elena's the only one that they'll trust because we're vampires and we have been very clearly against the originals. She's been directly invited. I think it's a good opportunity to find out what's going on and maybe ally ourselves with Esther because there's a lot more happening rather than just this stupid party. Damon's like, screw you. I make the rules around here. You're no longer her boyfriend. And so Elena dresses up and goes to the party, of course. Stefan dresses up and goes and meets her there and is like, hey, we know what's happening. We're on the same wavelength. We may be broken up. Things may be awful right now, but we know what we're here for. Damon shows up and is like, I'm just here to ruin everything for everybody. And so Elena's like, all right, well, I can't take y'all anyway. And then they all link arms and they walk into the Michelson house. And it's this cool shot of like...
I do love that shot.
It's the shot. She links arms with Stefan and then Damon steps forward and puts out his arm and she's like, well, all right, links arms with him too. And then it's the three of them power walking into the house. The iconic like thruple shot. It's like, all right, okay.
I love a Petrova doppelganger walking with a Salvatore brother on
each arm. Yes. It truly was like, not to bring it to a place of Elena, this season is where, and it's intentional, there's echoes of Katherine in how she manipulates some situations, this episode especially. So yeah, it is a really cool like parallel to draw with Katherine. But anyways, we're not talking about Elena, it's fine. So they head into the party. Elena's doing her best to try and get upstairs to talk to Esther. Damon is blocking her way. So I forget what Damon is occupied with when Elena and Stefan go off into another room. And Elena tells him, listen, Damon's being a problem, but I know you've got your humanity off so you can do what needs to be done. And Stefan's like, what needs to be done? And she's like, I need you to get him out of the equation right now so I can do what I'm here to do. He's like, bet, I got you, girl. And they lure Damon into a room and Stefan snaps his neck. Which I thought was fun.
At this point in the party, I don't know if this is before or after, Damon has a brief moment with Cole. The two wild cards of their respective teams.
Sure.
And Damon tries to like make some polite small talk with Cole, and he's just like, "You look familiar. Like, have I met you before?" And then Cole is just like, "I've met a lot of people, mate. You don't particularly stand out." And I was like,
Oh boy.
Cole is not under the spell of Damon, but some more behind the scenes lore, because Cole is 1,000 years old.
Okay.
They were planning on possibly having some revelation that in his past Damon had met Cole before, not knowing who he was or that he was an original. But like many things, that fell away and nothing came of it. So now it's just a scene of Cole Cole dissing Damon and being like, "You're not as interesting as you think you are."
So yeah, Stefan snaps Damon's neck. I think there's a conversation between Elena and Stefan. She says it's nice to know that, like, even though we're not together and even though your humanity's still off, you still have that part of you that respects my wishes, knows to work with me rather than like try to control what I do. And I just wanted to mention it because I thought it was a cute conversation that was happening around the same time. But anyways, Damon's unconscious while Elena goes off and talks to Esther, and she finds out about the kill plan and gives some of her blood. Bless her, she was caught up in a whirlwind. I guess he wakes up after that, and I think there's an argument between him and Elena. She's like, listen, this is the stuff that we've got to do. We're dealing with like a big threat. I can't have you hovering over everything I do and trying to control my decisions. And Damon's like, well, it's because I love you. It's the first time that he hasn't erased it from her memory, but it's the first time for Elena that Damon has said, I love you. And in that moment, she goes, maybe that's a problem. I thought I don't mean to laugh. It's devastating.
Poor Damon is so triggered by that.
Takes him right back to Katherine, I guess.
And as usual, when Damon is upset by a Petrova girl, he lashes out. He acts out.
Yeah.
And at this point in the show, when he acted out this time, I was like, come on, Damon, you're a grown man who's been an adult for over a century. Can you please learn to control yourself?
Just a little bit of restraint.
Especially with this family of unkillable vampires in town. Like, why are you antagonizing them because you're in a bad mood?
Is this when he shoves Cole off the balcony?
Yeah, he throws Cole off the balcony. Who, I mean, listen, Cole had it coming. Cole was gonna kill Matt for fun. If Rebecca hadn't had like one moment of kindness and attention from a human, not even human, from a male, and be like, oh wow, I think I like him now. No, I don't want Cole to kill you anymore. Let's go inside. Matt would be dead.
Oh, fickle Bex. I love her dearly. But yeah, he shoves Cole off the roof. Cole, who will not die, and so is now antagonized. But regardless.
I do find it funny that Esther, for her part, blames Cole for the whole commotion. And Rebecca as well. Because on the Mystic Falls side, it's like, oh, Damon got angry and threw Cole off a roof. And, you know, now all the people at the party who weren't in the know think that this man probably died. Or we have to like lie that it was an accident, he's fine or whatever. But on the original side of things, like later on you see Esther like speaking to Elijah and being like, no, Cole and Rebecca embarrassed us tonight. They ruined everything. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad that you're not blaming Damon.
After this, it's I guess the most key bit is Now that all the originals are linked through a spell that Esther's made, she's going to channel the Bennett family to kill them. Elijah figures it out because he asked Elena, let me know what's going on there. She's asked to meet with you specifically. I just feel like something's off in the water. Elena straight up lies to him. He's like, I'm a 1,000-year-old vampire. I can hear your lying heart beating. Breaks the ground open and traps her underground where Bex is waiting. And they're like, sort this out or Elena dies. And so the Salvatores have to go sort it out. There's a lot of shenanigans that happen involving trying to drop one original while they're linked to drop all of them. It doesn't work on Klaus. Klaus comes and retaliates. While the spell is happening, they're like, well, we can't attack Esther because Esther is a super powerful witch and has all this magic, and she's in this circle where she can't be harmed. So we need to cut the line to her magic somehow. The Bennetts are fueling her. That link is only going to be severed if one of the Bennetts is no longer a witch. And so Stefan and Damon are like driving to where the Bennetts are, making the decision as to who's the one who's going to do it.
Were Stefan and Damon aware of that? Because I was under the impression they were just going there to kill one of them. Probably Abby, because she's not in the group.
Yeah, it was expressly for that. I don't think they were just going to kill them for nothing.
I think they didn't realize until, because Stefan says to Bonnie, like, oh, we have to sever the link no matter what, otherwise Elena is going to die. And then Bonnie has this look of like horrified realization on her face when she's like, oh, this man is going to kill me. And she knows that Stefan has no emotions right now, so he'll do it.
He might do it.
Even though, he's doing it for Elena, so there's some emotion. And as she turns to try and run away, which is silly, Stefan, like, vamp speeds in front of her. And then she's like, what are you going to do? Even if you kill me, like, I'll still be a witch on the other side. And Esther is channeling all the Bennett witches living and dead, so it won't make a difference. And then Stefan is like, if one of you isn't a witch. So I'm like, were they planning that, or did they change the plan as they realized that?
I guess maybe they changed it later. It did seem like they were going to kill one of them while they were in the car. Because that
it
was
looked
the
like
debate.
Stefan was ready to kill Bonnie, but maybe he was just being menacing. Meanwhile, we know that that's not what Damon decides to do. So I'm like, did Stefan and Damon not decide who was going to... Oh, don't they flip a coin to decide who has to do it?
Yeah.
Oh,
They flip
yeah,
a coin.
yeah.
That's
Okay.
what I was going to get to. Of like, they flip a coin so it doesn't have to be this like decision that haunts them. But I think Stefan loses and Damon does it anyway.
Point for Damon.
Point for Damon. He does say, listen, this no humanity thing is not going to last forever. And at some point you'll come back. If you were the one to do it, they turn Abby Bennett into a vampire. And he says, if you had been the one to do it, you would hold that on your soul forever. You'd never forgive yourself. So I'm here to do it.
I think he also says that Elena would never forgive the person that did it. And that I guess he considers himself already too far gone at this point.
Yeah,
and
he's like,
you
I'm
might
willing to do it. I'm already the bad guy. It's fine.
Yeah, which I'm like, there we go. There's an example of the kind of Damon that I can tolerate. The one who's like, I'll do the bad things, not because I enjoy it or for selfish reasons, but because someone's got to, and I know it'll haunt other people.
But because it needs to be done. Yeah. This Damon I like.
And I think Stefan then points out that, no, I'm not gonna get Elena back. I've done too much damage in my bad boy era. And then Damon's like, fine, then neither one of us gets her. And I was like, really?
Maybe. Maybe.
You two are lying to yourselves.
So they come out of that with Abby, a transitioning vampire. It's this really somber affair that we'll discuss elsewhere. Now that Stefan, right, has been in this situation, the Esther plan is foiled. The originals clearly had the upper hand and are now just like fine again. They've lost their like opportunity to get rid of them all. Stefan's just in a funk now. He's also now just like off the rails. And this is the thing about Stefan, we're gonna discuss it at another point, but like his humanity throughout this section of season 3 kind of up in the air. Because it is technically off, but he is feeling all the feels. Damon decides, okay, listen, buck up, kiddo. Let's take you out on the town. It's another one of those patented Damon throws you into the addiction to try and help you out of it. Because Stefan's still struggling with blood. Oh, Stefan has decided to just like go cold turkey on people. And on blood bags, I think. He's just like, I'm just back to drinking animal blood at this point. And Damon's like, come on. You don't have to kill people to drink. You can just drink from a blood bag and that'll satiate your moral quandary. It's like, Damon, it's an addiction. What are you talking about?
Is this after the bridge thing with Elena?
yes, this is after, because that happens while the coffin saga's happening. And that happens before they meet Abby, because that's when he apologizes for it.
I think it's the bridge thing that spurs him to be like, let's maybe not drink human blood. There's a character, I think it might be Damon, who points out that your humanity is starting to peep through. When did this start happening? Like, when did you stop drinking human blood? Why are you starting to feeling feels? And then Stefan is like, it happened when I threatened to drive Elena off Wickery Bridge. Even I knew that was a bit too far.
Damon's like, this shit again. Let's go out of the town. Let's have a drink. Let's bite a waitress. And he just truly is just like forcing Stefan to drink human blood because he's still convinced I can teach him how to control it. I'll pull him back from the edge if he goes too far. And it's like, Damon, there is only too far when he drinks human blood. I wish you would take a second to just absorb this.
He still believes in his eat, snatch, erase technique, which by now the Ripper thing has been established, although
Certainly.
I don't know if the mechanics of why he's called a Ripper have been established yet by this episode. I'm not sure, because in the background there's the whole murder mystery thing happening where someone's killing off town council members. That's being interwoven with stuff that happened in the 1860s when the Salvatores, or not even 1860s, it might have been much, much later, it might have been 1900s, when the Salvatore brothers were like young vampires.
It might be in this episode.
We learned that a Ripper like Stefan feeds so hard on someone that they bite their head off. And I was just like, if Damon is trying to teach Stefan restraint and he's trying to go for the eat, snatch, erase technique, why do they need to bite people's necks?
Always the neck.
There is blood all over our bodies. Bite someone's wrist. Like,
he'll grab someone and feed from them and then expose their neck to Stefan. He is taking an 8-ball and shoving it up his nose. I don't understand.
So I'm like, David, you could just give Stefan someone's arm. If he loses control, the most that happens is a person loses an arm. You can heal them up with blood. They won't die.
Loses an arm! Oh, God! Yeah, so he makes Stefan drink from some waitress. And he's like, yeah, you're good. And then they go outside, and then Stefan attacks someone in a alleyway. And Damon's like, all right, Stefan, that's enough. Pulls him off. Stefan shoves him, and then goes back to drink from the person. And it's truly like, Damon, what are you doing? Elena comes by with someone else and is like, what are you doing? And Stefan turns and sees her, and his face is like fully smeared with blood. And he looks so shocked and ashamed and sad. And he turns away from Damon and starts walking down the road, just ignoring him. Damon's like, you'll be great in no time. You'll be the king of moderation. It's like, I just need to know, like, how many times does it needs to happen for you to see a pattern? I'm also curious from like a meta point of like, they do this every time, but every time it doesn't work. So are they intending to tell us that like Damon just doesn't get it and never will? Like, is Damon to never understand his brother's struggle? And like, what does that mean for their relationship? If he's always going to be this trigger point in his life, always trying to pull him back off the wagon, thinking he's putting him on a new wagon.
I think whenever Damon does it, it is a bit different. Like in season 1, it was a thing of like, you're weak. That's why your compulsion doesn't work. That's why your attempts to fight me are usually epic fails. You should drink some human blood. He's actively bullying Stefan at that point. Later on in the season, when Stefan is going through his cravings, it's less bullying and more teasy, where he's like, oh me, oh my, I left my blood there. And while it's still very malicious, because he's like, it becomes a thing of, oh no, I think that this will unravel your relationship with Elena. That's why I'm doing it. By the time we get to season 3, I think Damon truly is trying to be like, okay, let me be your Lexi. I don't know how she did it. I'm not going to read her notes. I'm just going to... I'm gonna do the recipe.
He says in the episode, the Lexi plan is stupid and it doesn't work, when it's been proven to work every time. He's disregarding the research notes.
He skims over Lexi's notes, throws them to the side. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna do the ingredients from scratch. I'm just gonna make my own. I'm not gonna follow the book.
I don't get it.
Maybe it's a thing of Damon outside of the Catherine of it all, anytime he wasn't enjoying vampirism, it was, oh, I miss my baby brother. I wish he was here with me, and things would be better if he'd stay by my side. So maybe in his mind, he thinks, okay, maybe that's how Stefan feels. Maybe that's Stefan's problem with this whole blood drinking thing. Maybe if I had been there for my baby brother, this wouldn't be an issue. So I'm here now, so it won't be an issue.
So the thing is, that is true, is that if he had been there for Stefan back when they turned, then he would have been, because they flash back to Stefan's like time in their early vampire years when Lexi eventually finds him. And Damon's just like around. He's just there like looking down his nose at Stefan or like turning up his nose and just like, your ways disgust me, brother. And then he leaves. And that's it. And it's like, you didn't consider for a second, you've clearly got it under control. You're also a vampire. Don't you think it might be useful to be like, what's going on here? This isn't normal. This isn't who you were as a human. Maybe we need to help you through this. That never happens. And of course, it's because like he's still blaming Stefan, I guess, for turning him. This is the thing too about Damon, is that what's established in this season is that Damon wasn't always the Damon we know now. And that happened when Sage groomed him in the like early 1900s.
Sage.
So that's like a narrative that they pull, because Sage shows up and she's this 900-year-old vampire, and she's like this boxer woman, and she's like debaucherous and out on the nightlife. And it's, I wish Sage had been a lesbian. That's a whole other situation to unpack.
I wish Sage had been a man like she is in the books.
You're right. That's what it is.
Because in the books,
yes,
there's implicitly something between, or there's a history between Sage and Damon in the books that might be romantic or sexual. I don't think it's explicitly stated. And then in the show, they go out of their way to create a character who shares a name with this book character, and then they change the character's gender, and I'm like, oh, okay.
And then they textualize the relationship.
And they make it clear that the two of them have some sort of physical history, but it's like, I wouldn't have minded a bi Damon, or at least, you know, then make a new character. Why are you naming it after a character in the book that comes with like queer baggage, and then being like, no, this is a straight woman because Damon needs to be straight?
As they always do. I mean, but like, listen, that's not my bag or my journey, but I will never say no to a queer character is the thing. So I would also have welcomed bi Damon. Not that it would ever happen. It would also, honestly, it would make sense with all the Bill Forbes stuff, because it would just be projection. He's just sublimating the era of Sage in his history, and this is how it expresses itself. It all tracks. So yeah, that's the thing that they're pulling. So in this time when Stefan was like off the rails, Damon was still like goody-goody. And then he leaves after Lexi showed up, because Lexi encounters Stefan. I think she finds him feeding on like a battlefield or like a war hospital. I can't remember. This is ages ago.
Yeah,
he's feeding
some encampment where where injured people are slowly dying, and Stefan is like, "Ooh, finger snacks."
Lexi shows up and is like, "The state of you. What kind of mess do we have here? Chop chop. I'm cleaning it up." And she Nanny McPhee's her way through his life, and then she's just in the Salvatore house helping Stefan through it. And Damon's like, "Okay, well, you've clearly got this handled. I'm a dip," and he leaves. And so there is an aspect of that where it's like, then Stefan spends however long without his brother. Even though Lexi has helped him through this thing, it would have been great if it was his brother helping him through it. So it's nice that you're coming back now to help him, but you've got to catch up. You've got to get up to speed on how that works, on what that means. You need to understand the research notes. You need to understand the practice and the protocols, because otherwise you're just going to make him worse. It works story-wise, right? I'm not saying it's like a bad story choice, because it would make sense with the Damon that we know, who wholly embraces being a vampire and maybe can't conceive of someone who just like struggles with hurting people and with drinking from people and all of that. So it makes sense. It's odd that it keeps happening. Beyond this point, it's not largely important, because they often just like don't come back to the Stefan Ripper thing unless it's in flashback. So this may be the last one.
I think it was also to show that Damon is just a bad influence. he's that older sibling who's leading his goody younger sibling astray. Like, it really is the whole addiction metaphor of it all, where Damon is the person who's like, oh, I can handle myself, so I'll lead this more vulnerable person into my hedonism. and just every time it happens, they're worse off for it. And that's why someone like Lexi will come along and be like, it's great that Stefan loves you. I know that Stefan loves you. You are bad for Stefan and you need to be far away from him whenever he's going through issues. Like, you need to be with Stefan when he's, 30 years sober of human blood.
Yeah. She says that when they reconnect in the early to mid 1900s. It is interesting you say. I mean, it's not relevant. It's a little bit relevant in present, right? Because there is still that dynamic of older brother, younger brother. But I feel like Stefan has a lot more agency. And so his choices are his own in present day. When they were turned, Stefan is 17 and Damon, as I'm still shocked to learn, is 25. It is a little odd every time I look back on the 1864 stuff and it's like, Stefan's a kid and Damon's like a full man who could have had several children. It's just crazy that they're treated equivalently.
I don't think they were writing season 1 that way. I think it was
sure
after everything and they were like, well, our actors are aging. So if we're going to pick an age for someone to be frozen at, let's bump it up as high as possible. And then they're like, Damon is in his mid-20s. I don't think he was supposed to be in his mid-20s during season 1 because it's in 1864 a 25-year-old man
really costs a lot of season 1.
He should have been married.
Yeah, he should have been with several child. And it really casts a lot of season 1 into question of was everyone just cool with this visibly mid-20s man hanging around their teenagers? What's that?
Dating Caroline.
I guess because he's founding family, but dating because everyone knew. Nobody knew that he was abusing Caroline, but everyone knew that they were a thing. He jokes, he's like, she's a little young for me. And Elena's like, you're not that much older. And it's now you have to go, no, he was 25.
Yes, that's what she says. She says you're not that much older. And I'm like, a 17-year-old would not tell a 25-year-old that they're not that much older.
But now it's what?
So I have to assume that season 1, Damon was meant to be 21, old enough to drink. Nobody ever cards him and he's able to drink at the Mystic Grill, whereas Stefan has to compel people to let him drink alcohol.
Now, we can't think about the age stuff too much because it falls apart. Following this, Sage comes in. She's like, yeah, I'm looking for my boo Finn. Damon's like, I'm looking to kill these originals. And then they link up. And they enact this plan. Because Rebecca is just sort of stuck around. Elijah is like, my folly, my horror. I've become this awful person. I kidnapped Elena and that's the worst thing I could have ever done. We are monsters. And so I have to leave. And Bex is like, screw that. I'm living my life. And so she saw etchings in the caverns where they were keeping Elena that showed that the white oak that is deadly to originals, that they burned down, or at least they thought, there was one still in existence a couple hundred years after they had left. So that means there's still white oak in the world that can kill them. So she's busy flitting around Mystic Falls, trying to figure out what the hell was done with this oak.
Rebecca finds out that the Salvatore family made their money
milling.
Working with wood.
Oh my god.
What would it be called? Milling? A milling company?
Milling company, yes. They were the loggers and the millers.
She's going through all these old records. She's sniffing around with so little subtlety that Damon is immediately like, Rebecca is after something. There's something that she wants to know. She's trying to be all casual, what did the Salvatores used to do back in the day? Do you have any old family logbooks of your business dating centuries?
So Damon and Sage enact this plan to lure Rebecca into a threesome, and then while she's asleep in post-coital glow...
Is it actually a threesome? Because I feel like when you actually watch it, I don't think Sage is involved. I think she's just dancing in the background, and then she leaves them.
Believe it or not, I didn't rewatch it. That's not my bag. So I'll take your word for it straight away.
It's framed as a threesome, and Damon starts making out with Rebecca while Sage is in the room. Bless her heart, Rebecca is trying to be wary. She's like, I don't know, but last time you flirted with me at the beginning of the season, you were up to something. When the writers were still writing me as someone with an amazing sixth sense for people being duplicitous. That fell away quickly.
Considering I've been betrayed before. Yeah.
And then Damon is like, no, I'm super into you. Forget about about the history of our two opposing sides and the fact that you're my brother's ex and you have this crush on Matt Donovan. Like, let all that fall away. And Rebecca clocks Sage and she's like, well, what about her? And then Damon is like, I don't want her. I want you.
Oh, boy.
And then he starts making out with Rebecca and Sage is just like in the background drinking. So I'm like, I don't think they did anything, because then afterwards,
When they're lying in bed together.
yeah, is Sage in bed with them?
Yes, because Sage at some point needs to read Rebecca's mind. The three of them are lying in bed with Bex in the center. She's just tuckered out, I guess. And then she reaches out and touches Rebecca's head and absorbs whatever she absorbs. And then she gestures to Damon to come with her. And they go to the shower and turn on the water, just in case she can hear anything in her rest. No, she doesn't even tell him. She shows him.
She kisses him and telepathically sends the memories in a way that we don't often see the vampires use their mental powers.
I mean, usually it's offensive, so it's like you're not gonna steal a kiss in order to entrap someone in the mind. You can do it long range. That was an intention on her part to be like, let me use my feminine wiles to share this information to him that Becca's looking for the White Oak, while I steal some information from him from his own mind while he's not looking.
So maybe they did have a threesome. It would be the first of two on Rebecca's part.
Truly, maybe it was like the CW was like, we're not ready to portray this yet, and then a season later they're like, okay, now we're here. We'll just roughly imply it by having them in the same room where it happens, and that's fine.
The plan with Rebecca is because Sage and Damon are initially like, Rebecca is up to something, let's get inside her head and fish something out, and Damon is like, she's an original. There's no way we can get inside her mind. Even you, who is 900, there's no way we can get inside her head without her knowing. And Sage harkens back to her former days of being Damon's like mentor when he was new to vampirism, and she's like, have you forgotten what I taught you? Rebecca's not just an original, she's a woman. And it's the fandom often treats Sage as like the dark counterpart to Lexi, where she's part of the reason that Damon is the kind of vampire he is, whereas Lexi is the reason Stefan is the vampire that he is. Because we often say, why is it that Damon seems to almost exclusively feed off women unless he's like outright attacking someone, like offensively? And one of the things Sage teaches him back in his younger days is that like human women are not just for food, they're also for pleasure. Which I'm like, Sage, is this your fault? I don't want to blame a woman for this, but is this your doing?
Damon's was a grown man. I'm not gonna blame her for that. He was ready to accept. Listen, can you say that he was vulnerable because he was new to vampirism? I guess, but it had been 40 years, so I don't know.
That's true.
How much you can say that, like, oh yeah, because I said she groomed him earlier, but I mean it in the sense of like to show him the ways, less the sense of like in a predatory way.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know how much there is like cachet to be like, yeah, she made him this. It's like, yeah, she showed him a version of vampirism and it clearly excited him. So that's why he is the way he is today. I think it's odd to put it on Sage, even though Sage was definitely an influence.
So two things. First, the contrast of Stefan and Lexi and Damon and Sage. Stefan, when Lexi finds him, is like full-on hedonistic vampire, indulging in everything, no self-control. She reels him in and teaches him to be the mild-mannered, compassionate version of him that we meet at the beginning of season 1. Damon, it seems through the season 3 flashbacks, pre-Sage, was very much sad boy vampire. I'm not out of control, but I'm sad. I'm feeding on people because this is what it takes to be alive, but it's not fun. I'm heartbroken. I'm missing my girl. Then Sage comes along and she's like, have fun, be hedonistic, indulge, lose yourself. And it's almost like the two brothers do a flip of each other's states of mind after they meet the women who show them the way. The second thing is, with the sexual nature of Sage's mentorship of Damon, how interesting would it have been if they had kept Sage as a male character? Even if they wanted to be scared with it and not explicitly say the two of them did anything together, still the nature of being like a male Sage being like, oh, Damon, come hither, let us indulge in these women before we drink their blood. It would have been like, it's giving bisexual threesome.
You haven't watched. There's something you haven't watched that I want to talk about, but that's basically the energy. Oh my god.
I'm gonna watch it. I think I know what you're talking about. I will. I'm gonna get there.
I need you to watch it. But yes, I absolutely. And honestly, then it would then lead to, like, we see a variety in the people that Damon drinks from. So even if you don't textualize the bi energy that was going on in that inception, the implication is still in present day. So you never have to actually say it, but it's understood by those who clock it.
Yeah.
People have been queer coding for ages, even in 2009, 2010, or whenever this came out. I do, though, feel compelled to note that, like, because Stefan, in his hedonistic era, he's turned his humanity off, right? When Lexi shows up, she says that, like, I see pain in you. I see that you've shut yourself off from it. I promise you this is not the only way to live. This is not the only way to do things. And so when she coaches him back, she then gets his humanity back on and then gets him to be like, listen, you can drink in other ways. And it's interesting that in that flip between him and Damon learns to embrace that hedonism, humanity full, just as is. So I think that is interesting. I think there are times that are referenced about Damon where they say his humanity was off. And it's like, he's not that much more awful than he is when his humanity is off.
Which is saying something.
That sounded like a joke. I promise it wasn't.
It's true. We do see that
It's
later
true
on
is
in
the thing.
season 4's flashbacks. We see that emotionless Damon, it's not like he's so not different that he's able to lie and pretend that he switched his humanity back on when he hasn't.
Because he's the same. And I guess that's like the interest of exploring humanity of Damon. Well, I don't even know if that's right to say. It feels like certain sections are declared as humanity of Damon to almost excuse some of the stuff he does.
Yeah.
And that in itself feels odd, considering he does equivalent and even worse things when his humanity's on. So it's like, who are you fooling in this? I don't know. Is the hope that people have forgotten? And I guess maybe that's it. Oh, the sage thing really took us on a journey. But no, that's good because it's apparently a very pivotal point in Damon's history. Yeah, the plan works. They find out about the White Oak, but then Sage finds out also from Damon that he's planning to kill the originals.
Damon is having these like shared thoughts with Sage and how his family like cut up that tree, and he knows exactly what that wood was used for. It was used to construct the Wickery Bridge. Sage is like, oh, so you mean everything that's strapped to the underside of that bridge, which is like, I guess, the old pieces of wood, is a weapon that can kill an original? And Damon is just like, full honesty, no lies. He's just like, yeah, it is. And then she's like, you can see why that would be a problem for me, right?
Yeah.
Because as I told you earlier today, I was in love with Finn. Damon doesn't even try to lie at first. He's just like, Finn is boring and it doesn't matter. You'd be better off with him dead. I fully intend to let him die with the rest of his family. And I'm like, Damon, why was your first instinct not to be like, no, we just want to kill Klaus, Sage, I promise.
Literally no one else. Don't worry too much about it.
Like it's such a dumb moment where I'm like, yeah, Sage catches him in the lie that he eventually tells, but it's insane to me that he didn't try to lie off the bat, especially since he knows what it's like to hold a torch for someone who's been entombed for centuries.
But only a person he cares about. This is the thing I was saying in the last session of like, to Damon, no one else is a person. No one else is like a fully realized being. So he's like, Finn is boring. Why do you care about them? Because Sage clearly is important to him. Sage is his mentor. But he's like, why would you care about that Yahoo who means nothing to me? Like, there's no conception of like other people care about other people. And it's just... That's what it is.
They have a brief moment where Damon looks like he's about to like do something, I don't know, violent, or maybe try to run away or whatever. And Sage is like, take one more step and I'll rip your head off. And I was like, love that for her.
Love that.
900-year-old vampire.
900 years old. What do you think you're going to do? You fool.
Because I'm like, as friendly as your relationship has been, she far outclasses you. And there's nothing you can do to her that she doesn't want you to. And then Damon lies and is like, fine, we'll only use the remaining white oak wood pieces to kill Klaus, who we hate, and you can keep your creepy boyfriend.
Finn, who's done nothing to no one, and is just a quiet dude. God. Anyway, she pulls it from his head that the originals are linked, and killing one means killing them all, which means Damon was lying to her. And so she tells Rebecca, and Rebecca goes to where the pieces of the oak are and burns them all. And Damon shows up and is like, oh, hum and ha, my plan's foiled. And the girlies are standing there like, anyway. So
I love that they don't like each other, but they were united against Damon.
They're like, bitch, I don't like you. I don't like you either. But you know what's one thing worse? A man trying to play us both. Okay, and they win. Well, I mean, at the end of it, he wins because the Wickery Bridge sign is also made of white oak, so they have that much left.
He stalks up and says, I'm going to find another way to kill the originals. And you know what? Just for what you've done, I'm going to make sure Finn is the one I personally kill while they're all linked.
I don't know why she didn't rip his head off right there. Just for that threat. I guess hubris to be like, what are you gonna do?
I think she was confident. She thought there's nothing this man can do to me. He's not even 200 and I'm 900.
Sage, you could have done it so easy. But anyway, this kicks off the stake plan. They whittle down the sign into 12 white oak stakes. The plan is everyone's gonna have a stake on them, and as soon as we encounter a original, you pop them. Get 2 or 3 of you together, and anything can be done. Someone distracts, someone grabs, find a way, you get that stake into one of them, and they all go.
12 shots are killing one original, is what they said.
The only one they managed to get is Finn, because Finn's just back in town this episode. His siblings are busy beating him up for his betrayal, which, you know, I guess.
He's back in town because Klaus needed his blood to unlink them. He already had Cole, Elijah, and Rebecca's blood and his own, and he was forcing Bonnie to unlink the thing that Esther had done.
Klaus has sent Cole to Denver or wherever they've compelled Jeremy to go this season, and says, hold him hostage while I convince the witch to unlink us. So they do that. Finn truly just encounters Sage walking down the road, and they're like, oh my god, my love of a 900 years ago.
No, they bring him back to Sage because they're like,
oh, they bring him back to her?
They're like, even if we unlink Finn now, we can't have our immortal brother constantly conspiring with our mother to find a way to kill us. Finn outright says, as soon as our mother finds another way to kill us, I will happily offer myself up. And then Klaus and Rebecca are like, rather than, fighting you and bullying you, we're going to convince you that there is something worth living for. Here's your old girlfriend from 900 years ago. She's still in love with you. And Sage is there. And she's like, oh my gosh, Finn. And then they spend an afternoon together reminiscing. Sage mentions that Finn turned her. He says he turned her in a moment of weakness, implying she's the only person he ever turned. And we see that she has turned a person named Troy.
Elena and Matt see an opportunity with Finn, especially because now the clock's ticking because Bonnie's being forced to unlink the originals. So
I think they don't know about that. I don't think they know that.
They're just
they've
doing
actually
it?
they've been looking for Bonnie all day and they don't know where she is. And we only learn later on in the episode she's been with Klaus.
That's so much worse, just both for the characters as people, but also story-wise. I thought it was like a race against time.
No.
I thought that would have been really cool.
They were just like, let's just kill the originals, and then...
It was like, let's do it.
It's... They're like, where's Bonnie? She's not answering her phone. And then they're like, oh, well, we're going to have to do this without her, unfortunately, because we don't know where she is.
So silly, because it's truly just Elena and Matt, 2 of the 3 humans in the group, going after an original. It makes so much more sense to me if it's like, Bonnie's about to unlink them, we need to take our shot now. Oh man. Anyway, they corner Finn in an alleyway and take a shot, and they take him down. And he dies and desiccates.
He desiccates first, and then his body bursts into flames. As that's happening, it's interspersed with a scene of Klaus making Bonnie separate these 5 drops of blood, showing that the original siblings are now unlinked. So, like, as Finn is dying, the spell is being undone, and therefore his death doesn't affect anyone else.
I guess none of that really had anything to do with Damon. Where's Damon during all of this? Nowhere, I guess. Oh! I think this is where he gets kidnapped by Rebecca.
Oh, yeah. Rebecca's like, I haven't forgotten how you slept with me to trick me into giving you information to murder me and my family.
Right. And also at this point, the originals are now aware that the MFG has like a bunch of white oak steaks, because how else did they kill Finn? And so Rebecca tortures it out of him. She bleeds him dry so that all of the vein is out. She's like slashing him open. And then she gets into his head, creating visions of like Elena coming to rescue him and Stefan coming to rescue him. And it's just so hilarious to watch, of like the thing Damon loves so much to do being used against him. Wonderful. I mean, it's not wonderful. It sucks, obviously, and it's rough, and too bad. And also, it's messing up our plan. Stefan, of course, is like, okay, everybody give me your stakes. I'm gonna hand every single one of them over to save Damon. And it's like, maybe it's worth it if Damon's just tortured a little bit so we can kill them.
They were threatening to kill Damon, is the thing.
Maybe that's fine too.
Well, Stefan was never going to let that happen.
Stefan would never let that fly. So, yeah, through various shenanigans, the originals get most of the stakes back, and then there's 2 left. So, yeah, then they let Damon go, and Stefan gets to take him away.
I think Stefan initially trades, because they had 12 stakes and they've used up 1 on Finn.
Yes.
So I think he trades
8 of them, and then one of them, Klaus, is in the house when they get it back, and he goes, thank you, much appreciated. And then there's only 2 left. After that, again, more shenanigans regarding Rick and the stake that Evil Arik has hidden, because Rick is going through his Evil Arik phase and he's hidden away a stake, and now there's this like evil vampire hunter with a stake that can erase a line of vampires. Esther eventually comes back through Rebecca, possesses her, and then works with Evil Arik to like create an indestructible white oak stake that they're going to use to kill all of them, because the whole point is that the stake burns up once you kill an original. This one is indestructible, so you can kill all of them with 1 stake. They create the stake, but Rick comes back at the last minute to save his kids and kills Esther. Then Rick accepts that he's not going to go through the transition, and so he's just going to wither and die. Damon, this means he is losing arguably his best friend. They have a farewell sort of thing for Rick as he sits in the crypt waiting to die. Everyone says goodbye to him, and Damon stays with him to make sure that he expires with no intervention. And it's this really sweet goodbye. He has a bottle of whiskey, I think.
probably bourbon, because they love their bourbon.
Bourbon is a whiskey.
Oh, okay. See, I don't know alcohol.
And I'm an alcoholic. So he's got the bourbon with him, and he's giving Rick like a little farewell, holds up a glass or whatever, letting him die with dignity is what he says.
Rick jokes that, is this the part where you give me a dream? Harking back to Rose. Oh, just quick, we do revisit Rose via the existence of the other side and Jeremy's status as a medium when they go off on their side quest to find out what sire line they are from. And that is where Damon and Elena have their hot and heavy kiss that Jeremy cockblocks.
While Florence and the Machine swells in the background, never let me go, never let me go. It's a shame because I love that song, and now it's like forever tainted. I still listen to it though.
Rose speaks on behalf of Delena,
which
the
is
Delena
like
stands and writers, and she's like, it's not just that Elena is good for Damon. So she's like, no, it's not just that she can fix him. It's also that he's good for her. He challenges her and like her morals and ideals, and he's exciting and dangerous and makes her feel alive. And it's like, okay, if you say so.
No, let's talk about it, because if we have to address the Delena of it all for this season, that's the thing that is said. But as we've discussed so far, is that like, where does that happen? Because the whole time, Damon is always trying to keep Elena like hidden away somewhere when like shit's popping off. So what exactly is he challenging her to do? The only challenge there is in like, how much is Elena willing to compromise on in like a love interest? How much is she willing to accept in like the violence and the callousness her love interest has capacity for? In terms of like thematically and like in principle, right? In her principles, Damon doesn't challenge shit in these first 3 seasons. I just don't understand. He doesn't let her do anything. So what's the challenge there? That she's challenged to okay his actions?
Yes.
What are they talking about?
That's
when
what
they
it
say
is.
that?
I think whenever they do this vague thing of, oh, Damon makes Elena question everything she's ever known, I'm like, what you mean is he makes her question her moral standards.
So
Like-
not even makes her examine her own morality and what she's willing to do. It's in she signs off on what Damon is happy to do. And that doesn't make, in my opinion, like a foundation for a good relationship. I don't think that's the serve they think it is.
Hey, maybe that's why this is the season where Elena's full on like, I will let every vampire in the world who's not connected to what we later on learn is Klaus die.
I guess that's maybe it, but like a lot of the stuff that you can point to with Elena, where it's like, because they say this, Rick and Damon are having a conversation about how Elena's changing, but a lot of Elena's change has to do with like the new circumstances of her life, not Damon specifically. It's in engaging with these immortal villains who are constantly coming after her and constantly trying to take her life or use her for something, and she has had to adapt in the like shifting morality of their world.
Yeah.
That's not something attributed to Damon, or at least exclusively to Damon. That is the circumstances Elena now finds herself in. And it feels odd in a sense of accuracy and in a sense of, I'm always harping on about it, but agency, to attribute that to Damon Salvatore. It's so weird.
I would even argue that a lot of the growth Elena experiences in the third season is due to her inability to rely on Stefan anymore.
Yes!
In the scene where she's pulling buckshot out of his heart, Stefan notes that, oh, you're different. You seem stronger.
You're stronger.
And she says, I am. I've had to become stronger. We all have, because, you know, you're not here to be our white knight anymore.
You're not here to hold us all together, to be our knight in shining armor, so I had to buck up. And I love that. And it's just, if that's what we're attributing to Damon, because I don't know for certain if that's what they're implying, that's not just stupid, it's also an insult to Elena.
Yeah, Rose's
Rose's
line didn't really make sense to me. I was like, what do you mean he challenges her in what way? In that he refuses to respect her wishes the way Stefan would when he was her boyfriend? I don't. Like, he tells her, nobody else tells you that you're stupid and you've got a death wish. I will.
Was he challenging her when he was threatening to break her arm for daring to go somewhere
Oh, no!
that was dangerous? Like, what was he challenging her? I don't understand.
Something interesting does happen during the whole Return of Rose thing. I think Elena finally learns about the nature of Rose's, final moments. She says to Damon, you never told me about that thing which you did for Rose. And Damon's like, yeah. And she's like, why don't you ever let people see the good in you, Damon? And then Damon says, because when people see good,
they start to expect
it.
Good.
And I don't want to have to live up to anyone's expectations. And it cycles back to that thing that he's had echoing throughout season 3, where he's like, just because Stefan is bad doesn't mean I'm going to now be the new knight in shining armor. I'm not going to be the white hat. I'm not going to be the good boyfriend. Stop trying to force me into this role.
No one asked. I can't think of anyone who was like, Damon needs to be perfectly good. It's just like, maybe stop killing our friends. Maybe stop trying to sacrifice us when shit hits the fan. Maybe give Elena like an ounce of agency. These are very small requests, Damon. We're not asking you to be Mother Teresa. I don't know who you think you are. And also it's like, that's social contract, man. That's what it is to be a friend, a partner, a person in society, even if that society is just the Mystic Falls gang. Like, there is a social contract that comes with being in community with people. Like, yeah, you have to be nice to people to continue to be in community with them. When you aren't nice to people, they don't want you around. It just feels odd. But the thing is, in the show, that's not the case, because they keep him around the whole time.
They keep him around even when during the whole sire line thing, they're like, oh, you know how we're trying to figure out if we're descended from Klaus, and we're hoping we're not. We know for a fact that Klaus turned Tyler. He did it in front of our eyes. So all of the hybrids will die if Klaus dies. And Damon's like, okay, I don't care.
Who gives a shit about Tyler Lockwood? And it's like, all of us. Everyone but you likes Tyler. Anyway. So Vamp Larik comes back because while Damon's watching over his expiring body, Bonnie's being led by Esther, so she witchy woos Damon down to the ground, feeds Rick her blood, and he returns as Vampire. Vampire's on a rampage. He's trying to kill the remaining originals. They at some point are trying to desiccate Klaus, because Klaus has again gone, well, shit's hit the fan, so I'm taking my doppelganger and I'm leaving. Any chance to do that, Klaus will be like, let me leave this doppelganger dry and leave.
They succeed in desiccating him.
Yes, they succeed in desiccating Klaus.
They toss him in a coffin and they claim that, oh, Elijah's gonna come later on and collect his body, and he promises to keep Klaus desiccated until Elena has lived her life and died.
Yeah, Vampire returns and starts fighting Damon in this, like, warehouse, like an hour outside of town.
And Rebecca is with Damon at that point.
Meanwhile, Jeremy and Matt are orchestrating this plan to get Elena out of town because they're like, listen, all these vampires are ruining her life. We need to get her out of here. And so Matt drugs Elena's tea and drives her out of town. And she's like, what the hell is going on? And he's like, listen, you're going to be mad, but I drugged you and I drove you out of town. But now there's a possibility that Vampire is going to kill Klaus. As you know, we've confirmed Klaus is our sideline. So that means all our vampire people are going to die. Magically, I have driven you halfway between Mystic Falls and where Damon is. Just in time for this message to come in. So baby girl, it's time to make a choice. And Elena's like, oh, well, and then she's picking up the phone, she's calling, and Damon gets a call. Damon's like, hello. And Elena's like, baby girl, I'm driving back to Mystic Falls. I'm so sorry. There's not enough time to get to you.
She does say it's not just Stefan. You know, Tyler is there, Caroline is there, Bonnie's mom is also gonna die.
Yeah, like, I need to be where my people are.
And Damon asks, but if it was just me and Stefan, who would you pick? And Elena, echoing her doppelganger Katherine, is like, I would pick Stefan.
It's always been
I
Stefan.
loved him first. Maybe it would have been different if I'd met you first. Leading to one of our least favorite retcons. But then she's like, but you know, it is what it is. Between the two of you, Stefan is my first love, and I need to go see him. And Damon's like, okay, I get it. Not telling her the truth.
Here's the thing, because this is the only thing other than the big thing at the end left to discuss about Damon. This retcon. I don't think the show well, I mean, it does by showing you this. At least in part, they're like, this is support that, like, Delena's the OTP. Which, again, it's like, why do I care about any of that? But, like, for a lot of people I've spoken to about the show, this is something that's, like, a genuine thing they cite when they're like, oh, Damon's better for her because he met her first and then wiped her memory of the encounter and then met her later. And I need someone to explain to me in simple English, like I'm 5 years old, why that means anything. I need someone to explain to me why, when Damon meets Elena for the first time, right, of course mistaking her for Katherine, in a very chill sense for someone who hasn't seen Katherine in 140 years, but that's beside the point. He's just like, Katherine? And she's like, no, I'm Elena. And he's like, you're out partying, you're living your teenage life. You want a life of danger and desire and whatever. It's like, what are you talking about? Why are you telling this girl you don't know about nonsense that you're projecting onto her? What's this scene about? Did he read her mind and say, no, you don't want to, whatever? I don't remember the whole conversation, but it's some stupid thing that's supposed to establish a romance preceding them actually meeting. But he tells her, no, you don't want the quiet, small town life. You want danger, excitement, echoing all the stuff that Rose was saying, right? That's the intention in the narrative here, to assert that what Rose was saying about Delena is correct and true, because now it happened before she even met him. And it's like, what does that mean when he's someone who's not met Elena at all?
And who at that, I guess they think it's cute because it's like, oh, Damon wants this girl to have a life of happiness and excitement, even though he doesn't know her and presumably he's not in love with her at this point. He still loves Katherine. And he doesn't care about humans very much at all, like at this point. Okay. And I guess they think, oh, that's sweet. You see, he was able to find some glimmer of compassion for a total stranger. And that was Elena. So that must prove that's correct, because it strikes me as weird and predatory to corner this girl on like a dark street. This 25-year-old man, I'm gonna keep bringing it back because it's so funny to me. But like, all jokes aside, it is an odd scene to be like, yes,
their burgeoning romance. Because if you want to have it be like a compassion for a complete stranger, but it's like the intent is that this is supposed to be like, if not romantic, at least a little bit like charged. Because of what Elena said about like, if I'd met you first, maybe. That's what it's supposed to kick off. So it's like...
Apart from some weird first come, first serve thing that they seem to be invoking, as if Damon like, literally meeting her first
then means that he stakes a claim.
Is better.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, even if you want to play that game, Stefan still dated her first and loved her first. So even if we're going to be childish like that, it's still Stelena before everything else.
It's still Stefan.
I don't take the scene too seriously because even as I was watching it for the first time, I was like, it's very obvious what you writers are doing here. Like, it's obvious. You're just trying to give Delena some fuel. You're trying to be like, okay, maybe the two ships can't compete evenly because it's always going to be like, but Stefan got there first and Stefan knew her first and Damon was just the bad guy in town trying to free Katherine. And now it's like, oh no, maybe Damon wasn't so bad because he always had a soft spot for her even when he knew that she wasn't Katherine and he hadn't yet really gotten to Mystic Falls. And then he erased her memory of it, so now we don't have to deal with the fact that she would have remembered meeting Damon first. And he was like, he met her mere hours before Stefan properly met her because, a few hours later she goes off the bridge and then Stefan saves her life. And it's like, but before Stefan saved her life, Damon was the one who wished that she would have a great life.
Which is like, what? What does that matter? Anyway, I don't take the scene too seriously either, but it seems that a lot of people do, and I just find it, like, odd. Regardless, end of the season, Elena gets run off the bridge by Bex because she's like, so long as the original vampire is trying to kill us.
Well, Rebecca believes Klaus is dead at that point.
She thinks Klaus is dead, and she's like, I don't want to run anymore. I promise this isn't personal. And then she runs Elena off the road. Her and Matt are drowning. Stefan, of course, comes to the rescue, tries to save Elena. Elena says, no, rescue Matt. Stefan pleads. Elena says, you know how we roll. He's like, all right.
Elena, very conscious.
For like a solid minute.
Elena who can swim.
Elena who could have gotten out, because he gets Matt out. It's like, okay, now Elena swim through that door that's now open.
Stefan, you have super strength. You could have ripped her seatbelt off and let her swim to safety while you grabbed Matt.
You've got to roll with it. But Elena had Damon's blood in her system because earlier she was like slammed against the wall and got a contusion or something, and Meredith Fell was like, listen, this girl's not going to make it. And so she transitions into a vampire. And that's the end of season 3, which, oh boy, we're off into the transition year now.
What does Damon even do in season 4? Beyond our least favorite plot.
Season 4 is largely going to be about Delena because in general, he's not like super important to actual plot stuff. And then season 5 as well, frankly. Oh, it's all Delena from here on out. But before we get to it, season 3 rap sheet. Again, shorter than the others. Episode 4. Making several homophobic jokes about Bill Forbes, who, granted, sucks. Alaric Saltzman killed in this episode because he said to back off Elena. He came back. Attempting to kill Bill, who, granted, sucks. Attacking Caroline when she stops him from killing Bill. Episode 5, beating up Jeremy to force Anna's hand. Episode 8, releasing Stefan from the Salvatore cellar, disrupting Elena and Lexi's recovery plan. Also, actively worsening Stefan's struggle with blood addiction again. Episode 9, kills one of Klaus's hybrids in a bid to try and kill Klaus. He also attempts to kill Tyler Lockwood for messing with their Kill Klaus plan. Episode 11 kills another hybrid of Klaus's who attacked them. This was in the witch's house. Episode 12 harasses Meredith Fell. Judge?
He was investigating her. She ends up getting his blood, which is really important for the season's, ending. I think he thought she was a killer. I'll allow it.
So stricken from the record. Episode 15, Abby Bennett Wilson, killed, technically turned into a vampire, so, she's still, around. To stop Esther's spell and save Elena's life. Episode 16, actively worsening Stefan's struggle with blood addiction. Again. Twice in the same season. And episode 17, tricking Rebecca into bed to invade her mind. Which, whatever, but, just because of the general, the gender of it all, I'm just like, gross. And that's about it. Only 3 kills this season. One of whom... Oh, actually, no. 4 kills this season. But one of them came back and one of them became a vampire. So, I think the shortest rap sheet. Jumping straight into season 4. Regarding the transition of Elena Gilbert. Immediately when we open, Elena's doing the thing that many people we've seen doing the show, but it's like now our main character's going through it. Wakes up, everything's too loud, lights too sensitive, everything feels really off. Stefan's waiting for her and he's like, hey girl, you're gonna hate this, but you're in transition. It's a like back and forth in this opening episode to like catch everyone up to speed on like what exactly happened. And Stefan's like trying to, again, it's the third time I'll say it, Damon being involved in the transition process always skews it for the worst. Stefan's trying to explain to Elena very carefully and very calmly what's happened. And Damon keeps cutting in to make snide remarks and to take jabs at Stefan, who was just doing his best in a bad situation. So, they tell Elena she's in transition and she's got to either feed or die. Damon's obviously pissed because, like, one, he is upset that they didn't just let Matt die to save Elena's life. 2, that I guess because he knows Elena never wanted to be a vampire, she says as much. She says she was supposed to die to like close this loop in her mind of like her survive. She's got a lot of survivor's guilt, Elena, but like closing the loop of like her parents going off the bridge, quote, because of her, and now her going off the bridge and saving her friend. That like balances it out. And she's like, well, I don't want to be a vampire. This wasn't supposed to happen. And Damon, I guess, is upset because this means that Elena's going to choose to die off and he doesn't get to have Elena. So he runs off. At the time, like, Bonnie and Jeremy are trying to figure out a magic way out of this. Like, when Stefan is not in, like, the 75% of the episode with Elena trying to coach her through this, there's a conversation between Stefan and Damon, where Stefan remarks that, like, yeah, I'm going to hold this on my conscience for the rest of my life, but at the end of the day, I did as Elena asked of me. I respected her wishes. Damon's like, that's the difference between me and you. I would have let Matt die. I would have dragged her kicking and screaming from that water because at least she would have been alive. And it's like, to what end? God, to what end? It's like, oh, it's okay if she hates me forever because Matt died. And it's like, okay, so it's just about you then. It's not a concern to you what her quality of life will be now that she's got like more survivor's guilt, surviving 2 car crashes in which her loved ones died.
It's funny that Damon has reached a point now where he's like, I respect that Elena didn't want to be a vampire, and I wish that she wasn't going to be one. But I don't respect that Elena would absolutely have wanted Matt to be saved first.
I don't think he respects that she doesn't want to be one. I think would embrace if Elena was like, I'm choosing to be a vampire. I think he knows in his mind Elena will not choose that, and that's why he's upset. At the end of that episode, it's because they've exhausted all alternatives, and she drinks that blood to get them out of that prison. Pastor Young comes in with all his deputies that he's stolen from Liz and has trapped Stefan, Elena, and Bex in like an underground place. And Elena drinks blood to survive so she can bust them out. So even at the end there, it's a choice partly to save her friends, to save even Rebecca, who's like watching Stefan and Elena say their last goodbyes to each other and express their love and finally like understand, damn, it was never gonna be me, and maybe that's okay. Just for that episode though, she goes right back to hating her. I
don't
after that.
think, in defense of Damon and in defense of Elena, I don't think that Elena, barring, because, you know, they spend the episode looking for some sort of a loophole, stringing the viewers along and also, like, you know, delaying the inevitable.
Yes.
I don't think that if that had failed, Elena really would have let herself die.
Sure.
Not because Elena, you know, was over the moon about being a vampire, but I think Elena, she was fine dying to save Matt because of a situation that was outside of everyone's control. I don't think she was just going to lie down and let the transition like pass through her and then die.
Sure.
For a number of reasons, but, you know, the most obvious one is she was not going to leave Jeremy with no family if she could still be around to take care of him. So I don't think that Damon was thinking, oh, Elena will not choose to be human and she'll die. I think more so this episode, Damon was like, I would have allowed Elena to stay human because I know it's what she wants and that would have made her happy, but I absolutely would have let Matt die in order to get that. And now that we're here, I think it's silly that you're all running around like headless chickens trying to find a way to keep her human when that's never happened before. That's never been a thing. We know how transition works. We've seen it with Caroline. We've seen it with Vicky. Just let Elena feed and let her become a vampire, because frankly, it's not like that upsets me either. So you might as well rip the Band-Aid off and get there. And then he tries to kill Matt out of spite, which I'm like, so some part of you is upset that Elena doesn't get to be human, but in your mind, the way to remedy that is to kill the person that she loved so much she was willing to die for in the first place.
It's like, what does that solve? Truly, he does it twice too, because Matt comes over to see Elena at her house to be like, is she okay? I want to make sure she's okay. And Damon walks across the room and grabs him and goes, in what world do you, Matt Donovan, get to be alive while Elena dies? And it's like, everything in that already is a problem. We mentioned this last time of like, there is an appreciation of this trope of like, I hate everyone but you. The person who would like burn the world down, including the people you love, to keep you alive. And that's just not something I personally am about. So if that's your yum, by all means. To me, it's just very like, who? And then he does it again after when him and Matt are like trying to rescue the three of them trapped by Pastor Young. He's like, well, we're going to use Matt as bait, and rips his shoulder open to be like, I'm going to kill this human kid if you don't free my people. And the deputies come out, and then he, I guess, tries to kill them both. That doesn't go anywhere. And so he just decides to turn around and attack Matt because now he can't get into the house and Elena's going to die. He's like, well, you've got to die too. And he starts trying to kill Matt. And if it's not for
and
Elena
Matt has
as a
his
vampire...
own survivor's guilt where he's like, you know, go ahead and kill me. You can't possibly hate me more than I hate myself right now. And Damon's like, wanna bet? But it's just, it's so pointless because I'm like, Damon, if you kill Matt, then everything that is happening to Elena right now was for nothing.
For nothing!
Because at the very least, keeping Matt alive means Elena's sacrifice meant something. And that where she is now, which is seemingly upsetting you, it served a purpose. Matt dying means that now Elena is going through all of this for no reason. How does your logic work?
And Elena herself breaks free as a vampire and then throws Damon off. And it's parallel to in season 2 when he attacks Jeremy and she looks at him with like pure hatred. In this one, this like magnified by vampirism is a nice parallel for me where she's like hovering over Matt and staring down Damon, like daring him to come closer. And I just... There's another path this could have gone, but I digress. Oh, I wanted to say about season 3. Up until the end of season 3 regarding the like Delena and Stelena of it all or whatever. It worked as a story of Damon was this potential love interest, this flirtation, I suppose, with the darker side. That's a quote from it. I think it's from Vampire Academy. From the movie Vampire Academy. Oh god, if we ever watch that, that'll be hilarious. But yeah, it's this dalliance that she had in like a period of her life where, you know, Stefan had disappeared. And when he came back, he was not the Stefan she recognized. She had her growth journey. But in season 3, and they make a note of it, that like Stefan and Elena still work. Even when they're not together, and even when his humanity is off. They are so suited to each other that they work it out by like episode 17. And that whole like last arc of season 3 really solidified a possible route where it's like, yeah, Damon was an option, but like she says, at the end of the day, it was gonna be Stefan. Of course, season 4 that changes. And it's a change that's like, you know, it's a new season. We want to shake up the story. We're going to like actually explore this now. And it's facilitated by this transition of her becoming a vampire. And it's a change I was open to, if not for what happens when Elena becomes a vampire. That we can get into now, I guess, unless you have anything to add.
No, nothing to add. Well, you mentioned again the allure for some people of the kind of person who would burn the world down, including all the people you care about, to protect you. And I'm like, that becomes a really flimsy thing with a character like Elena, who we are told over and over again values all the people around her more than herself. She feels so strongly. She loves so much. If you are going to create a love interest for her who disregards all that and says, I don't care how much you love all these people, they can all die for the sake of you. how can you then tell us that this person is a suitable match for her?
Not just the suitable match, the best person for her.
Maybe that's what Rose meant by Damon challenges her. Damon challenges her to be selfish and to stop putting her own head on the chopping block.
Abandon all empathy and compassion for like people in general, but also her loved ones. It's like, what? Fine. Okay, sure. But yeah, progressively in this first arc of season 4, Elena, I want to note, after something Damon says, begins to struggle with adopting the vampire lifestyle, right? They build her a daylight ring. Bonnie makes her a daylight ring. Stefan's like, listen, we're going to watch the sunrise. We're going to see the end of this day. And we're going to keep going. We're going to figure this out. Again, Stefan is coaching Elena through vampirism. Damon is there going, she's not going to be able to do that. She needs to do this. She can't go through this process and this part.
Stefan wants Elena to immediately get on the animal diet and, a la Bella Swan in Twilight, be the kind of vampire who has only ever fed off animals, who has never tainted themselves with tasting human blood. I mean, the exception is Elena had to drink human blood to complete her transition. But beyond that, Stefan wants it to be like, Elena's only going to feed off animals and that will be her life forever.
Because the concern is that, like, because she's this empathetic, compassionate person, that vampirism, in a similar way to how it happened to him, it's not going to be something she's able to deal with necessarily. So we're going to try with the animals first and see what happens.
And Stefan is also worried that, if we allow Elena to go through the learning curve of being a vampire, feeding off people, there's going to be slip-ups. She's going to hurt someone. She's going to kill someone, which even Caroline did do. Caroline did kill someone. She killed that.
Yeah.
I always call him Trip because I think of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, I've
but
called
there's already
him
a
Trip
Trip
as
in
well.
this universe.
He's not Trip in this universe. He is Carter.
Carter. She killed Carter, Bonnie's 5-minute love interest in one episode. And I think Damon is thinking to himself, even if Elena ends up, being one of the best vampires there ever was, she is going to kill someone because we all have gone through that. Every vampire has killed someone by mistake. Let's just rip the band-aid off and quickly move through that process instead of forcing her to be something she's not and traumatizing her and possibly turning her into another you, Stefan, because you're boring.
The thing is, that's the most important part. The thing is, too, is that, like, Caroline, because she was left to her own devices, she kills Carter pre any Stefan intervention. So I think there is a route here where it's like, we start you off on animal blood. Once we're like, okay, we're getting the bloodlust stuff, then we go to blood bags. There is a route in which you don't have to feed from people. If that's something she later is like, hey, maybe this is what I want to do, because I don't get the feeling that, like, Elena was like, yes, I want to feed on people. It's like, if that's something we're eventually going to work on, great. But, like, if this is something that'll potentially be a problem, it's not a ludicrous idea to start small.
I guess even if Elena didn't want to feed on people, the craving for human blood is always still in there in someone like Stefan.
Yeah.
Who a lot of the time abstains. So from Damon's point of view, it was probably a thing of, if we force Elena to only drink animal blood, we're not teaching her how to handle this craving for human blood that she's always going to have either way. And then we might end up with another Stefan situation. Even though we've now gone through the establishment of the Ripper lore, Damon still sees it as Stefan
convinced.
Lacks control because he didn't learn how to do it.
Still convinced.
Damon's parenting book, he's like, this child is just badly behaved because you didn't beat them when they were young.
Even that is bunk logic, because Stefan starts off drinking human blood. He didn't start off drinking animal blood. Damon? Whatever, it's fine. To Damon, it makes sense. But the thing that Damon says is, she's never going to be able to do this. She needs to drink human blood from the vein, and that's the only way we're going to go through this. And so, when she drinks animal blood, she can't keep animal blood down. She's throwing it up. Something that certainly Stefan doesn't do it. So they're like, okay, animal blood's not working, fine. We're going to move to blood bags. She drinks from a blood bag. She can't keep the blood bag down. Now it's like, what? Caroline drinks blood bags. Tyler drinks blood bags. Everyone but Damon drinks from blood bags pretty exclusively. So why is this an issue? And then
it's at the funeral for Pastor Young and maybe the other people who died in the fire. Elena is now starting to starve because she's been unable to feed off animals, unable to feed off blood bags. Before we get to it, Damon offers to let her feed off him.
Yes.
Which we know through Michael, Papa Original, we know that's something vampires can do. They can subsist on the blood of other vampires.
But unlike Michael, who does it as feeding, amongst vampires of a modern era at least, it is considered an intimate act to share blood with another vampire. It's basically raw dogging in the house around the corner.
And Damon knows that Elena and Stefan are back together at this point. But
sure does.
Instead of being like, okay, Elena, if I truly believe this is a way to help, let me go let you feed off your boyfriend. He says, no, here, take some of my blood.
Because you know Stefan would let her do it. Better yet, slice your wrist open and bleed into a cup and hand it over to her. You wanted that.
Well, he seemed to, I think it was the whole straight from the vein thing.
He doesn't know that is the thing. Or was he trying to get her used to drinking from the vein?
I think because Damon is in denial for so long at the start of this season that even when it's been explained to him that Elena can't keep animal blood down, can't keep blood bags down, Damon's like, yeah, it's because she's a new vampire and she needs to drink straight from the vein. I guess he believes any new vampire who you would do this to would throw it up because their instincts are fighting against it, which I'm like, Damon, your science is shaky at best, but okay.
Your science is always bad. You don't know anything about the supernatural. Why are you the benchmark?
Damon gives her his blood and she does manage to keep it down for a little bit. And then she pukes it back up while she's at the funeral in the bathroom. And she's now starting to starve because she hasn't fed all day. Essentially, I guess the last meal she had was when she completed her transition.
Pretty much since Pastor Young. Yeah, she had a couple drops of blood.
And now she's feeling faint and she's starving. And upstairs, April Young is bleeding out because Connor the vampire hunter has stabbed her. And then Matt offers to let her feed on him in a very, we're supposed to believe, subtle way. I'm like, okay, everyone around you is blind, but sure, whatever.
Yeah. It's cute. It's whatever.
She feeds off him and she's finally able to keep it down. And then Damon is like, you see, I was right. She needs to feed straight from the vein. And when other people point out that, but this is weird, Damon.
This is a little bit odd.
We've known so many vampires. Caroline was a vampire only for 2 years now, and this never happened to her. Then Damon, conspiracy theorist. No more. He's no longer Damon the atheist. He's now Damon the conspiracy theorist. He's like, it's her weird doppelganger blood then. It's because she's a doppelganger who was turned into a vampire. That's why she's being this way. And I'm like,
witches have been turned to vampires.
You want to maybe call Katherine
Werewolves
and
have been turned to vampires. Katherine can't have had this issue. She would have told you, I'm sure. Where's this coming from? God, Stefan. Well, I guess Stefan didn't throw up. Well, they don't know at this point that Stefan's a doppelganger, but Stefan assumedly didn't have this issue. He's drinking people dry in the 1800s.
Weirdly, when Elena first throws up the animal blood, Stefan does say that, oh no, it's okay. It takes some getting used to. It was a while before I was able to stomach. I assume he means animal blood and not blood in general.
Animal blood, yeah.
And I'm like,
because it's
really,
not like
Stefan?
usual
Did you throw
for
up?
vampires to drink it.
I'm like, okay.
I got the sense of in my mind, I was like, is he assuming it's the taste and that's why she's not about it? Maybe vampire blood is food and then animal blood is an IV drip, right? The taste isn't something that's good. It just keeps you alive. It satiates you in terms of your life, but not in terms of your craving or your taste.
Perhaps.
So maybe it tastes like drinking chemicals or something. I don't know.
Maybe. Or a mouthful of animal fur. Because if you bite the animal,
be good for anyone. Yeah, that's where we're at that point. There's a lantern ceremony at some point that's he gets to do a cute goodbye to Rick, I guess. No, he doesn't do it at the lantern ceremony.
He refuses to say goodbye.
Because everyone's stupid and gay for flying these gay little lanterns. So he goes to the cemetery and drinks whiskey like a man with his dead friend. After that, him and Elena go to this party. Because he's like, well, I've got to... Actually, Stefan and Elena are the ones who decide that because of Stefan's aversion to human blood, because he can't control himself with human blood, he can't help Elena through the process now, because seemingly Elena can only drink human blood. So that cuts out a big chunk of his Stefan patented process of getting newbie vampires up to speed. So he's like, well, Damon's got to be the one to take you, because I'm not okay around blood. Caroline can't do it. She's busy, I guess.
I don't know why Caroline couldn't do it. I'm like, out of everyone in this town who is still in high school, Caroline is probably the only one who's still getting good grades because the rest of you have been through hell. Tyler has left town like 3 times.
He's not in town at the moment. That's true.
Matt works a full-time job as well. Of all the people here, Caroline is definitely on top of it. She could have made time in her schedule to help Elena, but it's like, oh no, Stefan's like, I can't do it because you have to drink straight from the vein, and I can't do that. Damon can be there for you in ways that I can't. So go with him. You have my permission. And I'm like...
This whole era is so frustrating. They go to a party. They go with Bonnie because Bonnie's also going to speak with Shane.
I think she is going to speak to Shane.
And then Damon and Elena are dancing and he's teaching her the snatch, feed, erase method. She's struggling because she sees people as people. She sees like a picture of like someone's child or sibling or something. And she's like, get out of here. Forget you ever met me. She's, like they said, struggling with the compassion aspect. She can't bring herself to just feed on somebody when there's someone with a life and family and people who love them. Damon forces her to get over this. She feeds on someone. She compels him to forget. And then they do this weird sideways head dance in the middle of the party. I forget what song was playing. I'll have to look it up.
I think she's been feeding off several people while at the party. So by the time Bonnie gets back, she's just covered in blood. It might be another Halloween themed thing where she's getting away with... Or no, it wasn't Halloween, but it was some sort of like...
Yeah, costume party.
Very gore themed costume party. So she's getting away with the blood stained look. But Bonnie comes back and sees her, knows what's happening. And it's like that, oh my God.
It's like, what the hell?
What have I become sort of thing. Once she clocks Bonnie, she's like, oh yeah.
And Bonnie looks at Damon and is like, this is you. It's always you. On the way back with Damon, she's talking about like, I feel myself becoming this other person and I don't want to be this person. And so like Damon now is sad about that, I guess. Oh, because he's like, you don't want to become me. And she looks at him in a way of like, well, yes. Like, this is not what I want to do. You're convinced that it's what I have to do, but I don't enjoy this. I don't want to be this. And then Stefan opens the door, and then that's that. A bunch of Connor stuff happens where Jeremy gets kidnapped, and there's a plan to like... Jeremy, Matt, and April get kidnapped, and they all plan to like get them back. At this point, I think the cure is up in the air, so Stefan's like secretly working with Klaus on that. So he's trying to get rest of the situation because they need Connor alive.
And Damon says that Connor needs to die. He tells Elena that...
Oh, yes! Because I would have forgotten. Thank you for reminding me. Damon says Connor needs to die. And then Elena's like, yeah, well, Connor needs to die. So it's like Stefan's trying to control the situation because him and Klaus need Connor alive. Damon sniffs something suspicious going on. Stefan either snaps Damon's neck or revains him. And then just smooths it over, being like, Damon's being too much of a wild card. We need to go in quick and fast. We need to scope it out and then we need to sort it out. So Damon's out for most of the plan.
He also takes Damon's daylight ring, leaving him trapped in the house.
That's what it is, because Damon's trapped. And so Elena's there like, I need to do something. Damon's like, fine, okay. If you're gonna go, make sure you kill him. Go for the throat. Don't hesitate. Elena's like, bet. The Connor thing happens. There's an explosion. Stefan manages to negotiate, but it's largely Elena who uses like the pretense of humanity to like be like, my brother, bring back my brother. And then she vamps across and shoves him off, and then an explosion happens. And then she chases after Connor. Oh, no. Stefan actually has Connor. Damon finds him in the cavern, refuses to let him get away with this guy, stakes Stefan and pushes him against the wall, and starts pushing closer to his heart unless Stefan tells him, like, what's going on. And so Stefan...
I think he's threatening to rip out Stefan's heart. At that point, Stefan has told Connor to, like, run away, get away.
And so Stefan now has to tell him there's a cure for vampirism. Meanwhile, Connor's running away. Elena finds him in the caves. She, like... bites into his throat and then pushes him down and tells him to stay away from her brother. And he's like, look at you. Monster like you, you're all the danger in Jeremy's life he needs. And then I think he pulls something to try and attack her.
He stakes her.
He hits her somewhere that's not lethal. And she's like, you missed. And then snaps his neck. And then he's dead.
Honestly, loved that for her. Connor had
Love that for her. Love that for her. But also, we'll get to it. But there's a moment of like, and then... oh, he's dead. And then we cut to Stefan and Damon like going out into the woods, and they see Elena. She's shoveling. She's digging a hole. She's burying Connor the hunter. And she's not okay. She's very clearly not okay because this is the first person she's killed. That unfolds, of course, into the hunter's curse, where she's all deliriumed and suicidal and like various people try to keep her in a room and then lose track of her. And then she's just like out and about. What's Damon doing during this whole situation?
I don't recall what Damon's doing, but I do know that when Elena has, fled the coop and they're like, we need to go find her before she suicides herself, because Klaus has explained to them that that's what the Hunter's Curse drives you to do. Stefan is like, Damon, you go find Elena. Lately, you've been better at getting through to her than I have. And I was like,
yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of that of like, through Stefan, we are now pushing this idea that like just Damon is better for her.
at least that Damon is better at handling vampire her. And I will say at the time, because like I always say, I didn't hate Elena before I knew it was Endgame. So at the time this was happening, I was like, I can see where this is going. I don't mind it because I know we need to get there.
Yeah.
And it looked to me, if I'm giving it a generous read, I'll say it looked to me as though it's being framed as though Stefan hates being a vampire and hates everything that vampirism is. Damon loves being a vampire.
Yeah.
And loves everything that vampirism is. So Stefan is now in love with Elena in spite of her being this thing that he finds somewhat repulsive, we're supposed to believe. Later on they say it in the text, even though I'm like, he's not really acting that way, but okay.
He's really not.
Damon is loving her more than ever because she's now part of his world like he's always wanted her to be. And that maybe that is why Stefan is saying, oh, Damon is better for her because, Damon is seeing her as this thing that isn't scary or dangerous or broken, and that's why he's getting through to her. I'm seeing her as this thing that needs to be fixed, and maybe that's why it's not that there's this disconnect between us this season.
I would have, like you say, as it was happening, that was an interesting like exploration of what does it mean for Elena to be a vampire in this relationship between Stefan and Elena, with Stefan a self-hating vampire. I had absorbed all of that, forgetting stuff that I will now highlight from earlier seasons as we go through this. But then when the linchpin actually hits, it's like, oh no, I've just been duped. That's the problem. I've been duped by the writers. And only in my old age have I finally come around. Yeah, following the Hunter's Curse, because they eventually get Jeremy to kill a vampire, and
Damon saves Elena from bursting into flames in the sun. She's gone to down the bridge. She's tossed her daylight ring into the water. When the spell finally breaks on her, the sun is coming up. Damon grabs her and jumps into the water, I guess proving that vampires can't burn if they're underwater. I guess the flames can't burn if you're underwater.
No, I will say though, light refracts and diffracts on the surface of the water, so it's possible that it's not enough to like kill you. Maybe it just hurts a little bit.
Maybe.
I don't know. And this is supposed to be a parallel to season 1 Stefan, who was off the rails when Elena comes to save him and gives him his daylight ring, which he'd taken off, fully waiting for the sunrise. They never get to the sunrise. Elena talks him off the ledge before that, but it feels like that's what it's supposed to be echoing. Is this the point, or is it the next episode where when Elena comes back, Stefan's waiting for her and they have a discussion of like, we're clearly not working through this. I understand it's because Damon has been helping you through this whole vampire thing. He's better at it. He's more suited to it. There's nothing I can do.
That leads into Elena admitting that with the magnified vampire emotions, the subtle love that she felt for Damon has blossomed into something far stronger. And I think that's when Stefan is like, I hear you, I understand, but I'm tired of this love triangle thing. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I guess we just gotta pause it here. And they break up. And they spend an episode like with the fun of the shenanigans of the breakup, which is like Caroline coaching Stefan through it. And on the Elena side, who's there? I don't actually know. Is she just with Damon? I think
she might be with Damon. To Damon's credit, he tries to be there for Stefan. He hears about Stefan's breakup and he's like, oh no, we can just like skip school. We can go like drink. We didn't have to like worry about any of that stuff. Like, we can blow everybody off. I know you're going to be sad. And Stefan is like, don't pretend this isn't the happiest day of your life.
This is a joy for you.
He's trying at least.
No.
He was trying.
Damon doesn't have the emotional intelligence to recognize, why would Stefan want to go out with you? Partly or mostly the reason they broke up. Like, how do you think that's going to help him?
That's true. Damon, it's almost like you shouldn't have killed his best friend.
Like, maybe if you had Lexi, it's okay. At this point, Caroline's around, so they're doing fine. But, like, this is even post the blood share, which Stefan knocked his block off for. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, yeah.
That was real fun. And he's like, what was that for? And Stefan's like, you know. You know what? Near the end of this episode, in the second conversation that Stefan and Caroline have about the Delena situation, right? Because they're like, yeah, Elena is changing in all these ways, and here are all these things that she did that she probably wouldn't have done normally. And then Caroline, because Caroline is a genius that does not get the credit she does in this show, because there's a later scene where someone says Caroline did some math, and then Damon goes, Caroline, as if Caroline is some idiot. When Caroline's the one who figures out most of the stuff going on in this show. Caroline's the one to put them onto the fact that, like, hey, when we killed Finn, that killed Sage and killed Troy. There's some sort of thread going on here. They sired going down. Is that what this means? Caroline's also the one to go, hey, Damon's the one who said Elena won't be able to stomach animal blood. She also wouldn't be able to drink from a blood bag, something I and every other vampire is perfectly able to do. She can only drink human blood straight from the vein. What's that about?
She couldn't even drink Damon's vampire blood straight from the vein because he's not a human.
Right.
And Caroline had previously in that episode had a conversation with Klaus where she was speaking about the Elena drama, and Klaus seemed amused and was like, tee-hee, you'll figure it out eventually. I'm not going to say anything.
Also, Caroline says Damon tells Elena to kill Connor, and she does it. Damon says, this is fine, and so Elena's like, by all means. Like, what's that about?
Elena chose a blue dress, and minutes later when Damon says he likes the red
Yes!
one, suddenly Elena's like, I like the red dress now.
Something that seems silly in the moment, but now in the context of everything is like, hold on. They get to a point of like, Damon is the one who said it's rare in vampires, but it happens when they figured it out about Tyler. And they're like, oh, Elena is sired to Damon. Because Damon's vampire blood is what turned her into a vampire.
While that's happening...
I don't. Yeah, they're getting hot and heavy in the Salvatore house. Yeah.
Elena and Damon are having their first time to Ed Sheeran's Kiss Me, which was it was used on so many TV shows that I watched. It was in Grey's Anatomy, Arrow, and the Vampire Diaries, all in like the same year.
Of course it was in Grey's Anatomy. Also, yes, no, so that's the same episode where Elena comes to the Salvatore house right at the end of the episode, and Stefan has to leave because he's like, I don't want to be here while you guys are banging it out in the next room. Like, what are you talking about?
I think she might have been there to see Damon because it's during the day, and then Stefan leaves. I think he might even decide he's moving out. I'm not sure.
He moves out!
While Caroline is discussing this with Stefan, it's interspersed with the scene of Damon and Elena having their first time. I get a childish, because I'm a Elena fan, in case that wasn't clear.
Sure.
I do get a sick sense of satisfaction knowing that Delena stands the first time you got to see Damon finally get with Elena. It was ruined because he realized she was sired to him, and that colors everything differently.
I wish it had been in any sense that mattered, but it truly was just for that episode. And even then, it was like, it just sullied, I guess, the prospect of the relationship, but it doesn't end the relationship.
It doesn't end it, but it derails this mountain we'd been climbing all season, that, oh, Damon is just so good for her right now, and he's so much better for Vampire Elena than Stefan is, and Stefan even giving up and saying, I'm not going to do this love triangle nonsense, especially now with her feelings for him magnified. And even Stefan at that point is like, oh, maybe I can get Elena back if this isn't real and it's just the sire link.
If the reason we've been like, it's because Damon's assertions that Elena has to do things a certain way are the reason she's been struggling, then maybe we can get her back. And it's like, okay, it's the only understanding we get from it, funny enough, because it's a vampire thing, but the first time we see what happened is with a hybrid. So with Tyler, it was that his gratitude to Klaus for saving him from the pain and the torment of having to turn into a werewolf every month. That's what facilitated his desire to serve Klaus. This too is sort of iffy because for the longest time he seemed mentally affected concerning Klaus. It wasn't begrudging from the beginning. It was only later in the season, after they'd had several discussions around the sire bond, that he started to turn on it. Early, when they're making plans to kill Klaus, Tyler's like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We don't want to harm Klaus. That's not in Klaus's best interest. He was like brainwashed, essentially. And everybody was looking at him like, why are you acting weird? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't
I get what you're saying. And I always took, even before season 4, in the season 3 context, I took issue with how the writers seemed to try to make this distinction between the sire bond and compulsion. But when you get into, like, the mechanics of it, there isn't really
the same thing.
A difference. It's just that people who are sired remember everything they're doing. And even if they question it afterwards, they're like, oh yeah, why did I do that? That was weird. That was definitely too far. But they can't stop themselves. When Klaus tells Tyler to bite Caroline, Tyler's like, no way, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And then
he does it.
Happens to be making out with Caroline and suddenly bites her and even seems surprised at himself that he's done that he's bitten her. And he's like, whoa. And later on he tells her, he's like, I told Klaus I wasn't going to do it, but I did it anyway. And I'm like, how is this different from Katherine compelling people to fight untriggered werewolves until they die and trigger their curses? Like, I'm not seeing the difference here. And Tyler, when he explains the sire bond to Jeremy, Alaric, and Elena, he says that, oh, it's not like mind control. It's like, I feel this sense of gratitude. I feel anchored to him and like I need to please him. And I'm like, yeah, but Klaus is evil and you don't like Klaus. So this is a form of it's just not that different from compulsion, in my opinion, even though the show tries to treat it like that. So when we get to season 4, when we learn that the hybrid thing is, a werewolf who now feels gratitude to Klaus for freeing him or her from the pain of turning, the vampire equivalent is that you need to already have feelings for the person who sired you. Tyler explains that, the way I was able to unsire myself from Klaus is because I was able to turn until I didn't feel grateful. So you need to find what it is that's making Elena sired. And eventually they figure out that, you need to already be in love with the person, which is such a relief to Damon, because Damon's like, okay, whew, so that means she does love me. She did love me. That's why this is happening. And I'm like, okay, so now what is it? Is it that Tyler was bound to Klaus because of gratitude that wasn't the same as the hypnotic compulsion, and now Elena is bound to Damon because of love that isn't the same as the hypnotic compulsion, because it's having like physical effects on Elena and Tyler. Tyler is making out with Caroline and suddenly bites her even though he didn't mean to. Elena is drinking blood and now throwing it up because she's sired to Damon. It's not like she's thinking, oh no, Damon won't like this, so now I feel repulsed and I have to throw it up. So I'm like, what are the mechanics of this basically psychic relationship, for lack of a better word?
It's odd. It's odd because it's meant to be, right, this like emotionally intimate, not just in a romantic sense, but there's a sense of intimacy that isn't there with compulsion. Where compulsion is overt control, the sire bond is meant to be this connection between two people, the sire and I guess you could also say sire for the other person, the sired. For example, Klaus as Tyler's savior, and now Tyler as his servant. Damon, it's romantic.
And I guess if you wanted to, you could frame the distinction between compulsion and sire bond, at least with Klaus and his hybrids. You could say, okay, with Klaus and his hybrids, it's like Stockholm syndrome, maybe, where you're not being controlled, but your mind has adapted in a way where you are emotionally linked to this person, even if at the most logical part of your mind, it's not rational. But then when you throw in the vampire thing and it's romantic, it's like, okay, so what is this? Is it like a toxic sort of obsessive love? How is it then controlling her thoughts and actions beyond what she's consciously aware of?
I don't know. But like, my thing is that on a level where there's no version where it's like the sire bond is making her fall in love with Damon. She's been into Damon since prior.
Yeah.
So like, that's not the issue. On the level of Elena's experience throughout like the first half of season 4, her struggle through vampirism is directly caused by the sire bond, because Damon tells her all these things that she, quote, will not be able to do. She is then not able to do them. Sans sire bond, Elena would have turned out to just be perfectly fine at vampirism. It wouldn't have been a huge deal. She would have struggled the same way everyone struggled, but like, she would have turned out a normal vampire. Because there are scenes in between everything where it's like, now that she can drink human blood, she's killing it. She's standing on a bike and holding her arms out against an awful green screen, like live, laugh, loving. Like, she's doing fine when Damon's not actively influencing her to like drain everyone in sight.
And when Rebecca is not like throwing blood-stained people at her
Right.
to try and get her to lose
Try
control.
to get her to lose control. Like, she's fine. So it's just, it gums my gears that like, it's because of the sire bond that one, Elena becomes destabilized to begin with, and two, that then their relationship, Stefan and Elena's relationship, becomes destabilized. Because, like we were saying earlier, there's a version of the story where it's like, because of Elena's vampirism and Stefan's like issues with vampirism, that's why they split up. Stefan, way back, because we spoke about what happened in season 2 when Damon force-fed Elena his blood and she was going to turn into a vampire because of Klaus's sacrifice. Stefan's whole deal in that day was like, I know you don't want to become a vampire. They have a long talk on that hike discussing, you know, life and like what she wants for her future. And in that long conversation, Elena asserts, I don't want to be a vampire. I want to live my life. I want to live a long life and do whatever. And Stefan, recognizing that like, that means, hey, I'm gonna lose Elena when she's like 80 or 90. Stefan, of course, was gonna like stay with her well into old age. That's just the kind of it's just the kind of weirdo he is. And you know what? Good for him.
17-year-old boyfriend.
He had said that like, I would have said this to you sooner, but I know that you treasure your humanity. It seems in season 2 that there is a future that Stefan has at least envisioned in which they are both vampires and they can live together forever. I think he says that like an eternity with you is my ideal, but I know that's not what you want. So having seen that, coming back to season 4, because when I first watched season 4, I hadn't watched season 1 or 2. It is odd that the positioning now is that like Stefan is so upset that Elena is a vampire, full stop. Rather than Stefan is upset that Elena is a vampire because that's not what Elena wanted.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I've had to reframe rewatching this show. That bit combined with the sire bond stupidity just all adds up into this mess of like, Elena really got such a raw deal at the beginning of this season. And it inevitably cost them the relationship. They don't end up together at the end of the season. Because by that point, once they've done the sire bond gamut, once they've gone to New Orleans to find Charlotte, who Damon was playing around with in the 40s, and she was also sired to him, and he goes to, what's her name, Nandi, Nandi's mother back in the day.
Nandi's
a witch,
mother, yeah.
To try and get someone to get rid of this pesky sire bond, and she's like, kill 12 people for me. It's for the sire bond, absolutely, and not for anything else. And he does. And it doesn't work. And they have to go back to New Orleans in present day to go test this theory of like, if you use the sire bond to tell her to forget you, to leave you behind and go live her life and find happiness outside of you, then maybe she will be free. They do it with Charlotte. It works. She heads off. And when he needs to do it with Elena, he makes the selfish choice. And they wake up in bed together the next day. They haven't slept together. They make a huge point of that. Because I guess now Damon cares whether it's weird or not. But he never, I think up until like all the cure shenanigans are happening and up until Jeremy dies, up until Elena's like losing her mind because she's lost her last family member and he forces her to switch her emotions off. Up until that point, he does not drop the sire bond. If anything, he uses it to his benefit. Because when they're in that lake house trying to get Jeremy rewired because he's the hunter now and he's trying to kill every vampire in sight, including Elena. When they have to like have Jeremy go through the process of killing vampires to grow the mark, Damon uses the sire bond to tell Elena to leave so that she can't be there to like walk Jeremy through the whole thing. Even though Jeremy's like rewired now, that every time he wants to like, you know, hunt her out, he'll just redirect to Bonnie.
I think that moment is framed as Damon letting her go because at this point Elena is aware of the sire bond. I think he tells her. he's telling her, but oh no, I can't be selfish with you anymore. I want you to go. And she's like, no, Damon, don't do this. And then like a scene later, she's like, suddenly everything in me is telling me to leave. And Damon's like, yeah, then leave. That is meant to be him letting her go, at least in as much as they can in, the Mystic Falls gang way.
Because he doesn't end the sire bond. He just tells her to go home.
I think that was the only way to end the sire bond, to tell the person to go away. I mean, unless you were expecting Damon to break up with her.
That was what the implication was that because he tells Charlotte to forget him, to move on from him, and to go live a happy life. He just tells Elena to go home, away from the lake house. She's still sired beyond that, because then she goes on that whole thing of like, because Damon gets compelled by Cole to kill Jeremy, because Cole doesn't want Silas found, so he wants the hunter dead. Compels Damon to go after Jeremy. The Mystic Falls gang locks Damon up in the cellar after they've managed to apprehend him. Elena's like, I want to see him. And Stefan's we can't let you see him. You'll let him out because you're sired to him. So that wasn't to break the sire bond. That was just to make her do what he wants.
Oh, Damon. One out of your pro column. Sorry.
It's framed as a pro. You're right in saying that. They are framing it as a positive that he does that. That is one of the worst things he does this season. He takes her away from her brother, who's going through this really, like, traumatic process. He has to kill so many people. And, like, Damon has to be the one to take him through. Damon, notably compassionate, emotionally intelligent, good with dealing with trauma. Damon. Like, get me out of here.
Okay, I can find a sliver of positivity for Damon in that little saga. Damon is the one who, when Shane's hypnosis on Jeremy isn't really working, because Jeremy's still like, oh no, I very much want to kill my sister when you unlock my hunter subconscious. It's not going away. Damon is like, yeah, this isn't good. And it's so funny that Damon says this because of all the Stefan Ripper stuff that you've brought up again and again.
Yep.
That Damon says, of course it's not going to work trying to tie Jeremy's humanity to the vampire sister who he's been reprogrammed to kill. That's like dangling a burger in front of someone who's on a juice cleanse. And I'm like, Damon?
Oh, Damon.
But you!
Damon.
But Stefan.
Damon Zacharias Salvatore. Like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Is growth still growth if it's hypocritical? He does say that, hey, Bonnie's here, and these two were lovers once. Maybe he can tie those warm, gooey feelings to Bonnie. And Jeremy's like, yeah, I still hold the torch for you, girl.
Right.
Damon's right. So I'm like, oh, at least Damon, the people person.
Congrats, Damon figured out magical addiction in one sense and not another, and also figured out a supernatural thing in a sea of supernatural that he simply does not understand or know about. Congratulations, Damon. Winner Damon Salvatore. Oh my god. But yes, the Cyabon thing, he keeps on the whole way through, and it's only by chance, after all the cure stuff and the Silas stuff, after Jeremy's dead and Elena is clearly like unable to handle it. Even in that instance, when Stefan, because Stefan's the one who says, use the Sire bond, calm her down, and then we're gonna like figure out something to do, figure out how to work this out. Damon goes, all right. What did you say? I didn't hear it because I wasn't listening. Elena, turn your emotions off. And she does. And it sparks one of the worst arcs, except for maybe one episode that I love, in all of Vampire Diary history. Elena's No Humanity era.
Really? I quite like Elena.
Do
with
you
No
like
Humanity
it?
Off. She's
frustrating as hell.
I found it so interesting and fun and messy. I loved not only seeing Nina get to play emotionless vampire Elena as quite distinct from vampire Katherine,
Yeah.
but also that Katherine finally comes back to town.
That's
and
the
sees
only
Elena.
episode where I enjoy it. Everywhere else, it's just so annoying. I don't know why. Also, she gets that stupid little red streak in her hair that I hate. I'm just like, what are we doing here?
I love the red streak.
I hate
Or
the red
magenta
streak.
or whatever color it is. I love it. I like that they even kept it through into season 5 until Katherine is in her body and dyes it out.
She's like, get rid of this shit. Kathy, maybe you and I are on the same page, because that little red streak was annoying, stupid.
I loved it.
Listen.
I loved the new haircut in general. I was like, Nina Dobrev, you look really good with wavy hair.
Also, I appreciate it for the fact that, like, Nina Dobrev is acting circles around everybody when she has to do herself, Katherine, and then later Amara. So, my point being that all the way up until that point, never turns off. If it weren't for the fact that her lack of humanity then just by default switched off the Sire bond because she no longer cared for Damon. Which even that is kind of iffy because it's like, we've noted that switching off humanity doesn't get rid of everything. It like dims it all the way down to like 5%. So it's like kind of BS that it's like, that's the thing that switched off the Sire bond. But also, it makes sure that Damon never has to make the choice.
Yeah. Because then it's like, could Tyler have done that? Could he have just switched off his Sire bond to Klaus?
Yeah, could he have switched off emotions and then gotten rid of that Sire bond? I guess because it wasn't romantic. But like, gratitude is also not something you might feel if you had your emotions off. So, like...
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Tyler just didn't think about it.
Like a lot of things in TVD, the humanity switch is whatever the writers needed to be in that moment. Sometimes it's a dimmer, sometimes it's an off-on switch. I guess for the sake of the mechanics of the Sire bond, it was an off-on switch, and at least that makes sense. It's like, okay, yeah, she switched it off. Even Damon and Co are like, you're telling me you've been worried about the Sire bond all the time, like on this whole time she could have just like switched it off any moment she wanted to.
You know what would have sorted things out 6 episodes earlier than that, Damon? If you did what you were supposed to. If you did what you had said you would do. But you didn't. So, yeah. I don't know. That's really the only important thing I have to say about season 4, Damon. If you have anything else to add, there's nothing else.
Before we wrap up season 4 and the Sire bond of it all, I just think that now that you've put it into words, I think that a season 4 with Elena struggling with vampirism, because like you said, her struggle is largely because of the Sire bond.
Yeah.
Which is probably why in season 5 she's so okay.
She's
we'll get
great.
To that.
We're coming to that. Oh, I'm ready to talk about season 5.
But I feel like a season 4 with Elena struggling with vampirism and Damon being better for her
is interesting
in that period of her life than Stefan, and Stefan maybe feeling alienated would have been so much more interesting if the whole Sire bond thing was just completely done away with.
Yes.
I think now that you've fleshed it out and put it into words, I think the Sire bond actually ruins the entire concept of Delena truly getting to blossom because she's a vampire. Because now it's like, yeah, you blossomed because you had cheat codes.
Yes! It ruins both Stelena and Delena.
If Meredith Fell had used Stefan's blood instead of Damon's, it means Elena would have been sired to Stefan. Their relationship would have just deepened and nobody would have noticed.
Anyone's blood.
She would have never spoken to Damon
blood
again.
In place of Damon's blood, and Damon wouldn't have stood a chance. Because it's not like we said, Elena's feelings for Damon predate her vampirism. And never once does she go, yeah, I'm gonna date Damon. Never once. Even though they are romantic for a bit in season 3, they are never a couple.
Yeah.
Because the minute Stefan is like, I'm back to who I am, Elena's like, let's go. Let's go, baby girl. It's you and me. Ride or die. Because they were ride or die. And I think that if the Sire bond was not a thing, if it was anyone else's blood, and Stefan successfully helped Elena through a normal vampire transition, I don't think anything would have happened with Elena in season 4. But that's not the story.
Even if they wanted to go that way with Elena,
still take away the Sire
I'm now
bond.
of the opinion that they should have done it without the Sire bond, because the Sire bond cheapens everything. It means that Stelena ends because of a supernatural thing that is outside everyone's like immediate control. And then Delena
starts
begins
because of it.
Yeah, and all the things that we put in the pro column, like, oh, Damon is good for her, he's helping her, he likes and encourages this part of her, he's not ashamed of it, he sees the beauty in vampirism. It's like, yeah, but everything she's going through is because of the stupid Sire
It's all
bond.
mind control. He told her to do it and she did it.
And then we briefly, towards the end of the season, once Elena's emotions are back, we briefly have this thing where now Damon is worried that now that she's switched it off and on again, that means her love for him is gone, or at least it's not strong enough anymore, and he frets about it for a bit. But by the end of the season, she's like, no, Damon, I do still love you. And conveniently, now the Sire bond is gone forever, so we can
Now
be
it's
together.
okay for us to be together. That's God.
And then Stefan is like, I'm gonna get rid of Silas's
I'm gonna head out.
petrified remains, and then I'm gonna leave town, and you guys can have your summer of love.
Have your eternal, to be fair to Damon, which not something I care to after all I've just said. Him and Stefan agree, like during the last arc, because they've got it in their head that Elena's gonna have to make a choice between them, and they agree that whoever isn't picked will leave town and let the other one be happy, because they don't want to end up in another Katherine situation. That's always their lamppost. So I will give Damon one sliver of credit for being like, if she says she wants to be with you, I'll accept it for once in my life and I'll leave. That's all. There's nothing else Damon in season 4, if we're being honest.
Oh, also season 4, more behind the scenes lore. Season 4, Damon is the only character, apart from, I guess, Caroline, once Klaus forces her to sit down and think about it. And I guess Tyler, because I always forget that Tyler's also part vampire. Apart from Tyler and Caroline, Damon's the only one who's like, I have no interest in taking this cure. I only want it for Elena, and not even because Elena's humanity is that valuable to me, but because I want it so that I can prove that without the sire bond, Elena would still love me.
God.
So once I cure her of the sire bond...
It's all so tainted. It's all so bad.
I don't know if I brought this up. I might have been saving it for the Damon episode, so maybe I haven't said it to you. Julie Plex said that initially when they conceived of this being the season that would deal with the cure, they wanted the ending to be Damon gets the cure because they felt like that was something no one would see coming. Unfortunately, as the season started coming out, they said fans were immediately like, I think Damon's gonna get it because he's the one person who would never want it.
And they did the thing where they changed tack because people have... I hate when shows do that. I don't know why it's seen as a bad thing if people can predict the twist, because that means it's a good twist. People will be satisfied when it happens and they're affirmed correct. Now it's like, oh, the obvious thing happened. Well, I guess not, because it gets taken by Katherine. Similarly, like Damon, a character you wouldn't expect would take the cure.
Yeah.
So I guess they achieved their goal, but like, just stick to your guns, man. It's okay if some people guess it. That's the point of like a mystery, of a plot twist, of a foreshadow, all this stuff.
I certainly would not have seen it coming.
Me neither. He's the only one who's like, nah. Like, he's other than Caroline, who's thriving as a vampire, other than Tyler, who doesn't want to go back to dying? Being a werewolf? I don't know.
Being a werewolf. Tyler's like, I want the cure so I can make Klaus mortal and I can kill him.
Right.
I think Caroline at least would have considered it until she finds out there's only one dose and she's like, well, I wasn't going to get it anyway. And then Klaus is like, but be honest, you wouldn't have taken it. You like being ageless and super strong and powerful.
That's such a weird pattern of these like female characters' innermost desires and their true intent being told to them by male characters who are romantically interested in them. I find that so weird. It's like, why does Klaus have to tell Caroline what she wants? Why does Damon have to, in a retcon flashback, tell Elena what she wants out of life? Damon, who does not know her. Klaus, who's like oogled at Caroline maybe 3 times from across the town. I don't understand. Whatever. We don't have the energy to get into that today. Season 4, rap sheet.
Ooh.
Episode 1. Attempting to kill Rebecca Michelson, valid. she did cause the problem. I don't know how he was going to do it, but... Oh, he had the indestructible white steak. Attempting to kill Matt Donovan, because he's alive. That's truly it. Maiming Matt to draw out Pastor Young and his lackeys. Killing 2 of Pastor Young's lackeys in a bid to rescue Elena. Attempting to kill Matt again. Episode 5. Nice little jump there. Attempting to kill Stefan for trying to keep him from killing Connor. Episode 7. I should read these before I come back in. Because I truly wrote these a month ago and then forgot. Swooping in on Elena like immediately after she and Stefan break up. Judge? It is quite literally the next day.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I mean, when it's Damon and this show, you know...
Yeah.
Disrespecting the mourning period of a relationship seems like so trivial compared to murdering her friends. But yeah, it's not a good look.
Listen, I stand for the prosecution 90% of the time, and I have to make a shot. So
I'll allow it.
So kept? I don't know. Whatever the opposite of stricken is. Great.
Sustained. I don't know.
Sustained. Yes. Episode 8. Everything to do with Charlotte, even though it's in a flashback. A lot of the stuff is flashback stuff. Killing 12 people for Nandi's mother. Then not ending the sire bond with Elena.
Poor Charlotte. Why was he
Charlotte,
even
man.
fooling around with Charlotte? Wasn't he not waiting for Katherine?
He was, and he was in one of his, like, I'm just having fun eras. And he was feeding, and there was this girl. And then she became too much because she was sired, and she was fighting anyone who would even look at him wrong. And he was like, This is a problem. Episode 9. Using the sire bond to control Elena.
Oh, it's probably on your rap sheet, but there's some stuff we didn't discuss from season 3 with Damon in American Gothic.
Which bit?
The Lexi retcon.
That's season 4. That's coming up.
Sorry, season 4. Yeah, season 4. Yeah. Okay. We hadn't spoken about it.
Episode 11. Bar Vampire, who Klaus turned. This is during their era of trying to get Jeremy to grow his mark. Episode 15. Torturing Vaughn, the hunter. He wasn't particularly great, so, I just happened to like Vaughn.
He had it coming.
Using the sire bond to turn off Elena's emotions, which truly I'm like, what a chainsaw to a nail that is. Episode 16, attacking a nurse and using her as bait to lure in a vampire. The vampire in question is a vampire named Will from New York, who he then kills. The following episode, we get a flashback to this Will fellow in New York because Damon and Elena are on a road trip. We learn that through a retcon, Lexi was sent by Stefan to find Damon because he had his humanity off, and Stefan felt that because Lexi was able to help him through, she'll be able to help Damon through.
I hate it. It's a mark of how much I love and respect Lexi, but it's one of the things I hate the most of all the writing decisions in Vampire Diaries. The season 4 retcon that in the 70s, Lexi ran into Damon in New York. They had some fun in the New York nightlife, seemingly became friendly with each other. Damon lured Lexi in, knowing that she was trying to get his humanity back on and feeling like he didn't want that at all. Lured her in, pretended his humanity was coming back, tricked her into falling for him a little bit, at least a little bit.
Yes.
Slept with her, and then stranded her on a rooftop. Lexi doesn't have a daylight ring. Stranded her on a rooftop to potentially burn in the rising sun. He had reinforced the door and locked it, so I guess she couldn't break the door open. She was probably stuck there having to move around the shadows until sunset.
Like, move as the sun shifts. Oh my god.
There's just I'm not surprised Damon would leave Lexi to die. That's the least offensive thing in the story.
I mean, he's the one who ends up killing her, so, that's whatever.
Lexi, in season 1, the only episode where she's alive in the present, she's presented to us as older than Damon, stronger than Damon, too smart for Damon's nonsense. Damon flirts with her when he first sees her in the house when she's there to see Stefan, and she sarcastically says, "Oh yes, Damon, after all this time I've realized death," she's being punny because they're undead. "Death means nothing without you. Do me." And it's she's not gonna fall for your charms and your nonsense. She's immune to it. To then go back and retcon and say, actually, Damon wormed his way into her heart, tricked her, slept with her, and she's now some scorned former love interest of his. I hated it so much.
Humiliated her in such a personal way. Yeah, it's gross. It's gross and disgusting.
He slept with her and then left her on a rooftop to die as part of a nasty trick just because she was irritating him. And I just why would you choose?
I don't know.
Why? Why ruin Lexi like that?
Lexi.
It's because the Lexi that I met in season 1 and who I saw in Ghostworld, I'm I don't believe in a million years this woman would have touched Damon, no matter what he said.
Frankly, I think she would. We keep saying she would never actually kill Damon because that would ruin Stefan, but I feel like she would have gotten some retribution somehow. For that, it just doesn't track. And even if it does, screw you for writing that in. I don't know. Almost every retcon that involves Damon is just bad and awful, frankly, is the thing.
Because now it's Lexi doesn't hate Damon because he's a bad influence on her brother and he doesn't value on his brother.
On
and
his
he doesn't
brother,
value human life the way she does. And she doesn't appreciate his flirting because she's too smart to fall for that. Now it's Lexi hates Damon because Damon hurt her feelings once, and also he got into her pants and tricked her, and it's
hate it. Minimizes Lexi. This is what I'm saying of the gender aspect of the show sometimes, because it's Damon getting power over her even though she's older and stronger than him. The one way he can actually get to her is through this. Hate it.
Sorry, before we move on, another shitty part of that retcon
go on.
is that Damon then says that, I felt bad for what I did to Lexi. He's talking to Elena, and he says that now this retcon is that, Lexi was always a reminder of the bad person I was at that time when she found me. And that's why I had to kill her. So now we're supposed to believe that's why Damon didn't like Lexi, because she was now a reminder of the awful things he'd done. And then he said, so when I got the chance, I killed her, because out of sight, out of mind. And I was like,
get out.
That is not what happened.
A plague upon you and your family for suggesting that's what happened. Damon killed Lexi as a means to an end. The max of the emotional tie is that Lexi was improving his brother's life in a way that he could never, and he was jealous. That's the most I'll accept as like an emotional reason to kill Lexi, but it wasn't emotional, is the thing. He sold her out to save his own skin. Let's not pretend.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's the last
No,
I'll speak
no.
on the Lexi of it all. But I hate that.
absolutely
I
right
hate
to bring
what
it
they
up.
established in that episode.
I have to breathe now. I have to center myself again. Okay. This Will guy that he kills in the episode to prevent Rebecca from finding out about the cure, because they're still trying to find... It's with Katherine. So Will was a bartender who like traded in IDs and like used it for like fraud or whatever. And so Damon would come in with these girls who he'd then drain dry and kill, and then take the IDs and give them to Will in exchange for like getting to stay around and do this, I guess. Again, they'll say his humanity is off because we're in a period where Damon's supposed to be, you know, decent love interest. So when we retcon in this awful thing he's done, we have to couch it in, well, his humanity was off. So, you know, don't think too badly of him. And it's like, I don't think he would have been above it with his humanity on. He does bad things all the time. Episode 17. Everything to do with Lexi is in all caps. And that's where we'll leave off season 4. It doesn't get much better from there. Season 5, which opens
Season
with
5, the summer of love.
the summer of love. We had a summer of love for Klaus and Stefan, and now it's Delena's turn. Damon and Elena have been enjoying their summer as a newly minted couple. Stefan supposedly is off, I guess, touring the world. I don't know what they thought he was doing. And that's the problem. They didn't bother to check in. So the whole time that they've been in love and living life, and the sun is shining, and Elena's in strappy tops and shorts now because it's supposed to highlight her freedom. Gone are the cardigans. Gone are the long pants and the jeans. She's a free gal.
I love her college fit. I love her fashion change.
Yeah. It's a marker. It's notable.
It's symbolic of how she's done a full 180 on the vampire thing. She's fine now.
The fashion is form and content of the story. While they've been living their joyful lives, Stefan has been drowning in a locked safe in the quarry, literally in the same town. Just like half an hour away. I think about that every couple weeks and just remember, remember when Delena was thriving and Stefan was drowning for 3 months? Yeah, I remember things. I feel things in life, and I have to contain them. Yeah, because Silas escapes at the end of season 4. He's Stefan's doppelganger. He traps Stefan and drops him in a quarry, I guess to steal his identity, but also as some weird like revenge against nature for trying to create a pallid copy of him. I don't know.
I guess it was revenge also for Stefan working against him all season as well.
Elena says she's been feeling this vague sense, I guess, now that the season has started, that like something's wrong, but she doesn't think much of it because nothing supernatural happens in Mystic Falls. But then Silas rocks up and starts causing shenanigans. And they realize, oh, that's not Stefan, our beloved friend, former partner. That's the original ganger, Silas. And he has psychic powers and he's wreaking havoc, which means Stefan is probably somewhere bad. The core thing that happens, Elena's been having these dreams of Stefan like suffering and drowning and whatever. And Damon's the one who's been dismissing it. I guess that tracks, supernatural atheist.
Damon the non-believer.
Katherine, who's human and has just been hanging around now because Elena forced the cure down her throat. She's like, I'm having the dreams too, so clearly this is something more. We are doppelgangers. So they head out to find Stefan. They do their typical, we're tracking the atrocities down a region of America, because once he's out from the safe, he's been starved for 3 months. He's a ripper. He's tearing his way through. They track him down to some bar, but already Kitsuya's got her hands on him because Kitsuya came back at the end of season 4. This kicks off like a bunch of doppelganger stuff that is set up, and then a couple episodes later, the ball is slammed out of our hand and off, like out of the field, out of the volleyball court. Because Kitsuya will present this idea that the doppelgangers, because it's Silas and Amara way at the beginning, and then it's Stefan and Katherine at their meeting, and then Stefan and Elena once more later. That nature is trying to bring these doppelgangers together. This is elucidated by these dreams that both Katherine and Elena, doppelgangers that Stefan, as the Salvatore doppelganger, has romantically been entangled with, even though with Katherine, fully under mind compulsion. Katsuya will then say, I'm the one who made those dreams happen, so it wasn't really nature. I was just drawing y'all together so that I can, do my spell work. I don't know what the point was here. It really was just to throw a tiny wrench into the Delena works without actually causing any problems,
Yeah.
Because the whole crux of the issue is Damon's now feeling insecure because it seems like the doppelgangers are fated to be together and he is nobody in that equation. Katsuya tells him as much. He says, you and I are the nobodies in these equations. But it's nature's not actually doing that. Are they? Because it's Katsuya who facilitated this. This will come up later with the Traveler stuff that I am never going to recap because another character will send Elena and Stefan dreams to try and draw them together, and everyone will be like, is it nature? Is it doppelganger? What's happening? It's a full episode of just they live a full life in dreams, Elena and Stefan do, in which they're human people who were never vampires and were happy and had kids, and then it ends. And we find out, no, it was just Marcos using his ancient traveler magic to give them dreams, to draw them together for their spell work. So it's what's the point of any of it?
The point, I feel, was because obviously, they're aware of what the fandom says and how people respond to their show. As much as they were yeah, we've satisfied the Delena fans with the ending of season 4, they were probably a large draw of this show was the love triangle aspect. So let's keep that, let's string them along with that as long as possible. And even though Stefan and Elena as characters have said, our relationship is over, let's be amicable exes, it's done, you're not fighting for me anymore, I'm not in love with you anymore. They were let's leave a little wisp of Stelena in the air, just to keep the fans excited. Especially now that we have lost the allure of will they, won't they, Klaus and Caroline. There's no other love triangle in the show currently.
Yeah, this is our best conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, I hate it, I guess, is my
It was all a lie.
Yeah, because it goes nowhere. But that is kind of the crux for Damon in this early arc with Silas and Katsuya. Other than that, I don't think there's anything important until we get to the Augustine stuff. We have to. We are obliged by law to discuss the Augustine stuff. So, again, in another weird, awful Damon retcon, there's this shitty little doctor, Wes Maxfield, who is at Whitmore College, because we're in the college now, this is the college years, who apparently has been experimenting on vampires in a downstairs lab. When Damon, through the story, comes upon this, he recognizes a number while torturing Wes Maxfield. This is during a period where Caroline has suddenly decided, actually, I remember that Damon sucks, and Elena, why are you dating him? I'm being facetious. She does vocalize, dislike for Damon at various points through season 3 and 4 when it seems like Elena's vibing with him. So thank you, Caroline, for being the one champion. Yeah, this isn't an era of her saying, yeah, your vicious, awful, self-confessed serial killer boyfriend. Yeah, he's just, someone we kind of have to negotiate with now in this season 5. In this process of torturing Wes Maxfield, he finds, I don't know what he finds, a vial or a paper or a tag or something that has some random 6-digit number. And he reads it out and asks what this is. And Wes goes, why does it matter to you? And Damon says, because I was, and lists out a different 6-digit number. And Wes goes, oh, you were an Augustine vampire. And we're now what does that mean? I just want to get out of the way first the ludicrousness of Damon seeing a 6-digit number and assuming it must be linked to his days in Augustine. There are no other things in the world that are denoted and classified by 6-digit numbers, especially not in a lab. But that's whatever. We then launch into several flashbacks of Damon entrapped by the secret organization at the Whitmore College in the 50s?
Yeah.
That is experimenting on vampires, trying to figure out how they tick and how they can use them to sort of benefit humanity. Which, when you say it out loud, seems, like a reasonable pursuit as humans who are harmed by vampires consistently. But it is, of course, experimentation, vivisection. Like, these are not, like, great things to hear that are happening. And it really sort of blurs the line between what is human, what is vampire. Does it matter when a human can harm a vampire to this degree? That's kind of the vibe that we're playing with here. We're introduced to Lorenzo St. John. You don't get his full name at this point, but you do get his full self in all his glory. Fellow prisoner at Augustine with Damon. They bond. They trauma bond, I guess. That's not what that word means, but, what else am I going to say?
They bond while being traumatized.
There you go. And they make a deal because they get like a cap full of blood every day as rations. One person will give up their rations and the other will drink them both so that they can progressively get stronger without the doctor seeing, and then bust them both out.
And they do this for like a year? How was Damon not desiccating?
How was Enzo not desiccating is the question, because Damon's the one who drinks them. He's the one who busts out.
Oh, right. How is Enzo not? But it was established way back in season 1 that even just a week with no feeding will start the process of desiccation. That's what Stefan says the first time he captures Damon before Damon gets Caroline to let him out. And I'm like, so then Damon spent several months drinking this blood while Enzo had nothing and Enzo was just fine.
I guess maybe they alternated? I don't know.
Maybe he left like a drop for Enzo to like lick out of the cup. I don't know.
Because Enzo's perfectly fine when they actually bust out. Like, they bust out during like this almost presentation that the Augustine Society is giving to the nobility of Mystic Falls at the time. And Damon busts out. A fire breaks out while he's like attacking people. He's not at full power, so he's moving physically human speed to grab people and like tear their heads open or like bite into them or whatever. And then a fire breaks out. I think he knocks some stuff over. Roaring flames separating him and Enzo, who's still in the cell. Enzo's like, bro, help me out. Damon's like, oh, damn, there's just no way I can get to Enzo with all this fire in the way. And if I try, then all the Augustine people that are left are going to catch after me. So it pains me to do this. What a burden and what a suffering on me. But I'm going to switch off my humanity so I feel nothing for Enzo and leave him to perish. And Damon escapes Augustine. Following that, he swears vengeance upon...
specifically the Whitmores.
Swears vengeance upon the Whitmore family for this Augustine stuff and vows to kill... This is a plan they formulated while they were in prison of like, what are you going to do when you get out? Normal people are like, I'm going to go home and kiss my girl because it's the 50s. And he's like, I'm going to systematically wipe out this family, leave one person behind so that they can then propagate a new generation of the Whitmores and then come back 40 years down the line and wipe them out again. Rinse, repeat for generations for as long as I live. This is a thing that Damon then actually does and continues to do until present day. In fact, when Elena comes back, I assume to rescue him, and finds out through all the shit regarding like Aaron. It might not be during the rescue, it might be episodes down the line, because she's befriended this Aaron kid who is a Whitmore. She doesn't find out until later because he's very like secretive, because he's old money, but he wants to be treated normal by the normies, which is like, all right, Aaron, I don't.
Elena has heard through Aaron because they're bonding over, oh, our families are dead and we've lost so many people. And I think Aaron says, I recently lost my uncle or my aunt or whatever.
Yeah.
But everybody else in my family dies. It's like a curse. This has been a thing. Like, people are always dying. It's almost freaky or supernatural.
And Elena's
and
like,
then
girl.
When Elena finds out what Damon has done, and I don't know whether it might be Wes that tells her, it might be Enzo, someone tells her. It definitely isn't Damon, because Damon would never. And she's like, is it true, Damon, that this is what you did? You vowed to like wipe out this family, leave one person alive, and, you know, keep up this cycle of violence against people who had done nothing to you? Much like the tomb vampires who wanted to kill me and my friends when we had done nothing to them. And then Damon's like, yes, Elena, it's true. I did keep killing these people. And then she's like, when was the last time you did this? And then he's like, like a few weeks ago during our summer of love. It's literally like Damon being like, you know that time I said I was going out for ice? I took a road trip and murdered this teenage boy's last living relative, and I would have let him grow up, have kids, and then in our vampire life popped back in like 60 years later and murdered more people. Because I'm traumatized, Elena. By this point, the show is very much trying to spin this tale of every bad thing Damon does is because of trauma. The bad stuff in season 1, it was Katherine. The bad stuff pre-Katherine is because his dad was abusive. Now Damon does these things because Augustine tortured him, and even the idea is not even his, it's Enzo's. Where Enzo's like, what'll you do if you get out? And Damon's like, I'm gonna kill all these people. And Enzo's like, boring, lame, get creative, man. Do something more exciting. And it's supposed to be this thing of like, oh no, once again, someone corrupted Damon. First it was Sage, now it's Enzo. He's a poor broken bird who isn't to blame.
Now it's Enzo, a character we haven't met in present day. I hate it. It's crazy to me.
The idea that it's not even like, oh, Damon's dark and shadowy past is like, Damon did this while he was in a relationship with Elena.
A week ago.
After he had spent months trying to be like, I'm better for Elena than Stefan. I'm the better man as far as she is concerned. We're having our summer of love because I got the girl, Rick. I got the girl. Yay, we. But I'm going to take a break from our romance to go do something I know Elena would never approve of.
And to top it all off, I can't remember why. Is it big? Oh, I know why.
It's later on because of Katherine.
Yes. Katherine, so through more shenanigans, traveler stuff, Katherine gets into Elena's body because she's like, I'm dying, but I don't want to die, so I'm taking over. And she takes over. And it's in a moment where Elena's managed to fight off and she's trying to like get away to tell somebody that like, I've been possessed. The last moment as she's about to jump into Damon's arms, this is post her finding out that he's killed Aaron's entire family, the last of which so recently, but she goes straight for Damon. We see over Damon's shoulder, her eyes turn black, which is a symbol of a traveler possessing you. Catherine's back. Then in that scene, Katherine, in a true channeling of Elena, because she says a lot of things that Elena pre-season 5 would have like made sense to say, even in season 5 would have made sense to say. She's just like, listen man, I will always care about you, love you, whatever, but like I can't vouch for you anymore. I can't be in a relationship and be this person who sticks up for every bad thing you do, who is fighting my better judgment, the advices of my friends, while you, present day, go around the corner to go do something awful that you know I would never approve of. This can't continue if that's what it's going to be. Damon seems confused by this breakup. And I'm confused by that. Because it's like, truly, Katherine is doing a pitch perfect impression and impersonation of Elena, saying things down to a T, because she's had time to practice. She's had Matt as a resource. She's had Nadia to like advise her and be like, listen, even me who's been here like a couple months, I know who Elena is. She wouldn't do this, she wouldn't do this. And over this week, they've been like working on it. Damon is responding to this breakup as though Elena's saying something so ludicrous and something so unreasonable. It just no self-awareness, no freaking accountability, nothing. There's nothing in his mind that would have justified in that moment Elena actually breaking up with him.
Well, put yourself in Damon's shoes. Elena has forgiven everything else.
Yeah,
so it's like, you can forgive my abuse of Caroline and how I murdered Jeremy. And how I tried to kill Matt.
What's a couple Whitmores you never met, you know? Yeah.
Katherine, who is a villain, who does not value human life, who is one of the most self-serving characters in the show, does a very good job of at least acting like she can see Damon through the eyes of a person who is more moral than she is. And that's scary, that Katherine can at least put herself in that headspace, but Damon could never.
Never will. God. I think at the end of that episode, after she breaks up with him, as you've said many a times, once something bad happens for Damon, oh, it's time to lash out. It's time to do something awful. Him and Enzo, because Enzo's just been around also, right? That's also something that's going on of like, oh, Enzo's back, and we're discussing Damon's like propensity to just do awful things. He's leading Enzo down this thing of like, now we're gonna go on the town. They do the stupid lying down in the middle of the road to stop somebody, stop Aaron Whitmore, who's just trying to get out of town. He's done everything right. He's gone, I immediately cut off Wes's funding, tried to undo all the stuff that was done to Elena. etc., etc., etc. No, we've got to kill Aaron Whitmore because he's a Whitmore and he needs to die. And Damon kills him. Elena's friend.
Or at the very least, someone Elena made a connection with and felt sorry for, and
a kindred spirit. They bond over the loss of their family. And then we learn the loss of his family is because of you. And then you take that connection away from her.
Of course, in that moment, Damon believes Elena has broken up with him. I doubt he thinks they're going to get back together down the line. But it's like, so Elena breaks up with you because of the horrible things you do, you believe, that she feels make you incompatible with her. And your response is to go and do that same horrible thing because she's out of your life now, I guess, and this is who you are. So what are we supposed to take away from this, Damon? That you are acknowledging that you're bad for Elena? Or you're in another bad boy era?
They will bring that exact point you just made up later as a joke about Katherine. Because once they find out it's Katherine, because they've got Damon in the prison because he's been infected with the Ripper virus. I don't care. It doesn't matter. They've got him locked up. They realize, I think, because, well, I guess we have to talk about it. He gets infected with the Ripper virus. He's feeding on vampires now. Stefan and Katherine Lena are going to go save him. Katherine Lena sees this as an opportunity to get rid of Damon once and for all, so that she and Stefan can just be together forever. And in their attempt to try and save, because the Travelers have him and Enzo trapped in this building, and he's like going to feed on Enzo or whatever. Enzo eventually leaves. Another time. Stefan and Katherine Lena come by the door, and he's like, "No, don't come in. I'm a Ripper or whatever." And this is the stupidity of the freaking Augustine virus, right? Because it's like they do this full Ripper thing that misses all the like nuance and the like emotional and thematic stuff that makes the Ripper storyline interesting. They literally just infect Damon and later Elena with a virus that makes them Rippers. And it feels so cheap, and it cheapens Stefan's experience as a vampire. I hate everything about this plotline. They're like, we'll figure out a way. And Katherine Lena's like, let me shake things up. She steps inside the house. This house has a magical barrier that allows people in but not out. So she steps inside and she's like, I'm going to prove that you won't hurt us. That you can control this and you can overpower it. And you who knows it's Katherine is like, Katerina, what are you doing, girl? Stefan has to come in now to protect Elena. A scuffle ensues because Katherine cuts her hand open. And she holds the blood in Damon's face and she's like, you're stronger than this.
She's doing a lot, but this is not so different from stuff we've seen Elena do before. Elena who will be like, this situation is dangerous, but I truly believe that either your self-control or your devotion to me or our ability to make a deal will keep me safe. This is the same Elena who undaggered Elijah after betraying him twice.
Yes. This is why Katherine gets away with it for so long, because she's doing things Elena would do. The difference is that Elena has an understanding of people that a lot of characters, especially the vampire characters, do not, because of quote-unquote her humanity and compassion. When she does that with Stefan, it's because she knows, even as someone who struggles with self-control, she knows their relationship and their love is enough to conquer that. Once a man has fought compulsion for you, there's nothing that can beat you.
Ooh, and we did forget to mention that in season 4.
Yes!
In season 4, Damon, under Cole's compulsion, is going to kill Jeremy and is unable to fight it. And Elena's briefly
like,
brings up that maybe you can fight the compulsion. And Damon is like, why? Because Stefan was able to fight off compulsion for a few minutes in season 3. And it's like, well, yes, Damon, it's almost like maybe your love for Elena isn't as strong.
When someone loves you and cares about you to such a degree, it's like she knows that Stefan was able to, for a bit, combat his blood addiction in order to save a life. He was able to fight compulsion to save a life. Stefan is someone she can navigate in that respect. Elijah is someone who, for the most part, is noble and will honor an agreement. And also, she's in her like deal-making era. She's like, I have enough leverage in my hand that I don't think Elijah's going to cross me. And she's right. So it's like, Elena, for as much as she makes risky choices, she's not making them as an idiot. She's making them because she's making calculated moves. And I want to give her that credit.
Yeah.
But Katherine is very much doing it to shake the boat.
Damon as a character, clearly, it's ironic that Stefan is the Ripper.
Right.
He clearly does not have that self-control that he's able to fight vampire instincts or fight compulsion the way that Bill Forbes has taught us. You can if you want to badly enough. And I could say the whole being compelled to kill Jeremy thing, he doesn't care enough about Jeremy to fight it. Stefan was compelled to hurt Elena.
He cares about him in the respect of, like, he's Elena's brother. I'm not going to pretend that's not
Yeah, but I mean, maybe if Klaus had compelled Stefan to hurt Jeremy, Stefan wouldn't have been able to fight off the compulsion. So I will allow that. But I like that when Katherine is being Elena, Katherine is like, I full on do not believe Damon has the strength to resist. And I am doing this so that when Damon inevitably loses control, Stefan will kill him in order to save me, who he believes is Elena.
That does in fact happen. Damon then bites into Katherine Lena's throat, and she's immediately to Stefan. Stefan, he's gonna kill me. Stefan, please. Stefan's trying to pull Damon off. Stefan's barely trying because he's like, I don't know how I'm gonna navigate the situation. And then Katherine Lena's like kicking wood towards him.
She kicks the stake towards it.
Stefan, do what needs to be done.
I love how she doesn't say anything. She makes eye contact with Stefan after she's kicked the stake towards him. And I'm like, was that supposed to be framed as an accident? Like she's trying to incept the idea into his mind. Like, oh, there's just a stake lying on the floor, take it. Because I'm like, making eye contact with him kind of makes it seem like you were like, kill him, Stefan. But she doesn't say anything.
Stefan, for his part, grabs a shot of glass instead and cuts himself and goes, here's some older vampire blood. I'm sure that's tastier for you. He doesn't say that, right? That's a rationale I like to have in my head of like, why did that work? And pulls Damon away. They satiate him enough and then he snaps his neck. And when they put him in the cellar, he's the one to be like, she wanted you to kill me, man. She's done with me. I don't know what to tell you. And Stefan's like, I actually think that's kind of odd. You're in a depression spiral, so I'm going to leave you there while I go figure this out. And eventually they figure out that it was Katherine. Stefan will then come back to the cellar after they figure that out to tell Damon that it's Katherine. And this is when he's like, so when you thought Elena broke up with you and you were all devastated that you went and killed Aaron Whitmore and then went on a whole rampage that involved coercing Bonnie and Jeremy along with Enzo, in which Jeremy is very painfully tortured. You did all that in response to Katherine breaking up with you. And it's this little haha joke between Stefan and Damon that just fully does not capture the severity of that situation. And I just think that's crazy.
I think it was them trying to be like, look at the hold Katherine still has over you. Look at how she's still able to push your buttons.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think you're focusing on the wrong thing here.
He didn't think it was Katherine. He made a choice. Elena broke up with him and he made a choice to kill her friend. Damon's not a baby. Damon's not a child. He's a 164-year-old man. No, that's not the right math. What is he, 172?
170 something by that point.
Afterwards, when Elena finally gets her body back, she's now infected with the Ripper virus, so that's happening. She's delirious because it's an upgraded version that has werewolf venom in it, so someone has to go to New Orleans to get the hybrid blood from Klaus.
Oh, before Elena discovers her Ripper virus, they finally get rid of Katherine, which I have to say it's an interesting episode for Damon, because Damon had previously done the whole like, oh, I'm torturing aging Katherine on her deathbed thing.
Yeah,
with all these like memories of people she's screwed over like John Gilbert, or people she's hurt like Aunt Jenna.
Coming back for vengeance, yeah. It's like, let Granny sleep, Damon. I don't think this is that important. Goko's on her deathbed and here you are, like, come on.
I like that scene because here's where Damon shifts blame, where he's like, oh, we're gonna toast to all the ways that Katherine ruined our lives. I'll start. I waited for 145 years to get her out of a tomb she was never in, and she didn't love me. Matt is like, I guess she's the reason Vicky died. And that's when Damon's like, exactly, because I wouldn't even have been in town to turn your sister into a murderous vampire who needed to be put down if I wasn't looking for Katherine. And I was like, wait, what?
Wait, what?
How are you drinking with Matt about the sister that you... Anyway. And then when they have to get rid of Katherine the second time in Elena's body, and Katherine is saying her goodbyes to everyone, she gets to Damon.
she's doing the goodbye that's like, you can hate me, but y'all all know I was the baddest bitch, okay? Y'all all know your lives are better because of me. Katherine! again.
When she gets to Damon's like, I have nothing more to say to you, Catherine. I got all my jibes in when I thought you were dying the first time round. And then Catherine's like, but I haven't said everything I need to say to you. And she drags him one last time, basically being like, you are everything you are because of me, but she's not saying it in the way that, oh, Damon is bad because of me. She's like, no, you're amazing because of me. I made you better. You were gonna die some Confederate soldier on a battlefield. No one was gonna remember you.
Real.
I taught you how to love. I taught you how to be a vampire. I made you everything that you like about yourself.
Oh.
So you can hate me if you want to.
And you'll never get away from the sound of a woman that loves you.
I like that Damon got to have his revenge on Catherine when she was weak and dying. I'm like, you know what? She did mess with your life. She did lie to you. She didn't compel you like she compelled Stefan, but she was wrong for that. And I'm not going to feel sorry for Catherine, particularly since she hijacks Elena's life as soon as she gets the chance to.
Yeah.
But on the other end of it, when Catherine does finally bite the bullet properly from inside Elena's body, Catherine's like, but I have something to say, Damon. This is the end of our story. And even though Stefan is the one that gets to dagger her, she just gets to like close the book on her and Damon's very toxic relationship.
I guess good for him. Where were we?
I guess it was Elena. Elena now has the Ripper virus in her because Catherine left her a present before she dipped.
Right, so Elena has the Ripper virus, and she's delirious because it has werewolf toxin in it, and she's convinced that she's killed Aaron because Aaron keeps coming back in her hallucinations to like tell her what a bad person she is and how everyone would be ashamed of her or whatever. Damon, to try and calm her down, is like, you didn't kill Aaron, I did. And she's like, huh? And he's like, yeah, you had just broken up with me, and at least I thought, and I killed him. Sorry. And then never again. Never again. In fact, no, let me not say never again, because in the next episode when Elena's fine and dandy, they're having this big old argument about how they're all bad for each other and toxic for each other. And Damon brings up that, like, you broke up with me and I ripped out. It's that stupid audio that's trending on TikTok every couple of weeks.
That's
where
the
they're
one.
having that blowout fight. And he's like, I thought you broke up with me, so I ripped your friend's heart out. And she's like, you only did that because it was Catherine. It's Catherine's fault. It's like, what? What are you talking about? It's so ludicrous to watch them in the text recognize how awful this pairing is and then continue the relationship.
Even Damon is like, stop defending me.
I just don't get it. They break up and then they sleep together and then they tell everyone, oh, we're broken up, and then they're together again, and then it's just I don't care. I just wanted to address that.
I guess it's this romanticization of the messy, toxic love affair between two people who are definitely soulmates, but it's so messy, and that's alluring and interesting. It's the foundation that something like After is built on.
Oh god. What a comparison. It's accurate, frankly. Ugh, awful that Candace King was in the second movie there. Anyway, listen, make your
Insane
bag.
that Candace King's character, she was then replaced with Ariel Kebble. Is that
With
how you say her
Ariel
name?
Kebble!
Lexi's
Oh my
actress. I was like,
That's
what is happening here?
crazy. They're running the gamut of like slightly out of work TVD actors. Ariel Kebble had a show though. She had like a whole season with Russell Hornsby, who was in Grimm. I need to watch it. It got cancelled after a season, but like the storyline seemed interesting.
Okay.
It was like a police procedural with a twist. I can't remember what the twist was, but it was cool. Yeah, so they just continue in their toxic relationship for like the rest of season 5. The Traveler stuff starts happening. The twins, Liv and Luke, come to town. All that shebangles. Marcos does the doppelganger spell to draw them together.
The other side starts to fall apart.
They do their Thelma and Louise and crash into a building with a bunch of travelers in it to burn them all alive as a bonding experience.
Damon tries to leave Elena behind. He says, you don't need to be here. Only one person needs to drive this car and blow up the Mystic Girl. And Elena's like, no, ride or die. Ride and die. We're going to ride this car together and die
together. That episode, I guess, sealed the fate. That was it. They're together forever. And you know what? Power to him. At this point, I was like honestly so disillusioned with Elena as well that it was like, maybe y'all do deserve each other and I should step aside.
Yeah.
And I should remove myself from this situation.
There were a lot of people who had said, Elena's annoying. And I was always like, no, shame, man. I don't think that. Like, y'all are just misogynistic. You don't like female characters who aren't like
That's fair.
A particular brand of protagonist. But by the time we get to season 5, she has become so toxic because the writers have to make her that way in order for her to tolerate Damon.
Fit with Damon. It truly is. Her character is slowly devolved to fit with Damon. Instead of Damon...
Instead of making him better to match her and the moral person she's supposed to be, they were like, no, we're just gonna devolve her so that
we're gonna make her worse. And it's like... Even the make him better thing is not a plot I care for, but at least it would have been like in vain. It would have been in some sense of like, okay, I get it.
Or at the very least, you know, he could fix himself to become good enough for her.
To be a better person for her, sure.
I brought this up with you the other day. I don't think it was on a podcast, but I brought it up with you where I said Caroline and Tyler are two characters who start off the series being the worst versions of themselves. And as each of them becomes a supernatural creature, they become much better versions of themselves. They become closer as friends and they fall in love. Neither one of them fixes the other.
No.
They grow to a certain point separately and then continue to grow together. And it is not for each other. It is this nice mirror that, oh, the douchey jock became a werewolf and grew some common sense and a brain and compassion. The insecure beauty queen, shallow popular girl became a vampire and she learned to actually love herself. She became confident and strong and they were such a good pairing. And I'm like, Delena was like that Delena could have been that in reverse. I'm not going to claim that Damon was good, but any groundwork Damon does during the course of the show to become slightly better is ultimately undone once he gets with Elena, because once he's with Elena, she just accepts everything he does. And therefore, there's no reason for Damon to even try to fix himself for her or without her. And he just becomes progressively worse.
If anything, they keep retroactively eroding his character and then just being like, it's okay,
They
though.
do.
It's fine.
And I think it's this thing where they're like, the reason that I said it was like Caroline and Tyler in reverse is because ultimately the two of them do end up looking worse, because Damon was bad, but he's so much worse because in his relationship with Elena, they keep adding bad things to his character so that they can be obstacles for the relationship.
Yep.
But Elena just skips over all those obstacles and says, it's fine. I still love you no matter what. All of this is to me as excusable as Stefan being a ripper, something that he cannot help. And therefore... I'm staying with you. I'm getting worse. You are being revealed to be worse through all these retcons and flashbacks. And in the end, we end up with this couple of people who are just terrible. And I'm like, why are you the main pairing in the show? How am I supposed to
They are
root
now
for
the
you?
main couple. It sucks. And here's the thing, right? Because you said specifically that they do all this retroactive continuity stuff to create obstacles for their relationship. Why is that the only possible obstacle? I guess it's because what are the conflicts that exist in Delena before they actually get together? Because you sort of, when you want to tease out what is a conflict in the relationship, it's you two as people learning to grow together and to navigate the parts of each other that may not be compatible to you or may not be to your liking. And for Damon with Elena, which I think would have been useful if she wasn't now a vampire, is the whole thing of Damon constantly sidelining her, constantly keeping her packed away, wanting her to have no agency, wanting to have nothing to do. I still probably would have found fault in it because I find fault in everything. That's just kind of my brand. But also because it's like, now that you're romantically involved with her, you see her as a person. I don't know. But like, if we had a journey of him learning to trust Elena, seeing more up close how exactly her mind works and why it is, because it's not something he understands when Stefan does it, right? Maybe he starts to understand, oh, this is why Stefan would just like go along with some of her plans and work together with her and respect the choices. It's because a lot of the time Elena does know what she's doing. If that had been a journey of like Damon learning to like loosen the reins a bit. I even hate to say that because is Elena a horse? I don't know. But like learning to trust her process a bit more, learning to hold back his impulses to just like dominate the situation. That might have been interesting. That would have been an interesting tension for a relationship. Her now, even as a vampire, they could have done it where it's like, Damon, when I was human, you were so obsessed with like keeping me whatever. You need to learn now that I have the strength to back up the decisions I want to make. I can be an asset in a situation. That's something that they could have used as like, this is our conflict back and forth. But I don't...
It's interesting that you speak of Elena no longer being sidelined and Damon coming to respect her decisions because she often knows what she's talking about. I'll circle back to that in a moment. But you brought up something very accurate when you said it's because like the reason they have to keep retconning in worse things in Damon's past and making him do bad things in the present is because there's no other obstacles. What other obstacles are there in their relationship? And I think it boils down to Stefan. Stefan was their biggest obstacle, and once he and Elena have accepted that they are never getting back together and they don't want to,
that's it.
The writers were flailing for something interesting to be a problem in Delena's progression. It's like, okay, well now Stefan is gone, you are together. What can we say?
What do we do?
What can we do?
But here's a question, because, and we've gone back and forth about this too, because you say at some point in the writing, the intent was to be like, Delena wasn't a certain endgame. There was at some point, like, maybe she'll come back to Stefan. At no point during the show is Stefan in the position that Damon was in like the earlier seasons, where there's this, like, ooh, maybe she might break up with Damon and get back with Stefan. Who knows? The only time that happens is when Catherine's controlling her body. And Elena cites this as like, this is something I never would have done. How could you not tell this was Catherine? So the idea of Stefan being a conflict in their relationship is so far out of the writers' minds in season 5 that, like, it truly...
I mean, unless they planned to bring it back much later, because who knows how many seasons these people would have tried to squeeze out of this franchise if they could get away with it. We do know that by season 6, Nina Dobrev wanted to leave, and that was her last season.
Yeah.
So maybe in season 5, as it was being written, it was like, oh, maybe there's a chance that Stefan, at some later point, will still feel for Elena. Because whenever Stefan and Elena spoke about their feelings, it was always, I still love you, I'm just not in love with you. Like, it wasn't like the care and affection was now completely gone and they've moved past everything. It was like, no, those feelings are still there. It's just that we've realized that it's not going to work out the way we wanted it to, and we're fine with that.
Even that scene with Stefan and Elena, after Marcos uses the spell to, like, show them what their life could have been, there's so much care and love and, like, understanding in that scene when they haven't been together for, like, half a year, that I don't think Delena ever gets to in a convincing way, at least for me.
It certainly never gets there when Delena are broken up. Whenever they're broken up, it's bad. Like, the energy between them is bad.
Rancid vibes.
It loops back around nicely because I think possibly, since I don't know when Nina would have told them that she wanted to leave, when in the writing process that would have happened. But if in season 5, Year of the Doppelganger, where we're still teasing this shadow of Stelena, the season ends with Elena making a decision that Damon allows her to make, which turns out to be bad, because then she strands herself on the other side with Bonnie, who is having trouble getting everybody back through into their new metaphysical, reconstituted spirit bodies made flesh.
Yeah.
And Damon doesn't make it through. And it's like, Elena, if you hadn't been here, if you hadn't insisted on coming along to crash your car and dying when you didn't need to, maybe Damon could have gotten back through. But the season ends with Damon not being around. And it's possible that season 6, for a time, might have been this like mirror image of the beginning of season 3, where Elena has lost the one Salvatore brother she was with, but now the other is here, and in his absence, maybe some feels might start to come back. Something might get rekindled, because Steroline hadn't really set in season 5 yet. There were shades of it.
There were
definitely shades of it. And maybe they would have even had a love triangle with Stefan, Caroline, and Elena.
That would have been crazy.
That would have been insane. It's just a theory.
The old feud of Elena and Caroline from season 1, because that's how it started, isn't it? Actually, that would have been kind of interesting. That would have been kind of interesting.
But it could have been like, oh, in Damon's absence, maybe what they were planning for season 6 was, oh, in Damon's absence, maybe now there's a love triangle with Stefan and Caroline and Elena.
And it's fraught because they never broke up, and like maybe you feel guilty. My brother, my boyfriend, technically we never broke up. Yeah, I see that. And then Nina was like, actually, I'm peacing out. And they were like, shit. Well, what do we do?
Yeah, by the time season 6 starts, I think they were definitely like, yeah, Nina wants to leave the show. Because does she even do anything that season? Not much.
No,
But
not much. We've spoken about it before. Season 6 is her least involved season.
the season 5 other side ending and how that links to Damon. What was the nature of his relationship with Bonnie for most of season 5?
So if we track it, season 4, someone makes some throwaway line that Damon kind of loves Bonnie, which is like, okay, I don't believe that, but sure.
it's when she's missing after they leave the island and Jeremy has died.
And it's like, loves her why? What's the friendship there? What's the bond there? Occasionally when she needs to do witchy stuff for y'all, yeah, they speak. But like, what's the... Again, it feels like, you said it last session, but something that you're telling us about Damon's emotional state or like his intentions towards, I think this was Elena, when he was carrying Elena's dead body back to at the end of season 2, and he's like, this and that and the other thing, and it's like, who are you telling? The audience? Why are we being told this? I think in a similar way, we have to be told that Damon loves Bonnie because there's been no indication of that in their relationship. By season 3, they have this kind of fun, like, back and forth thing where it's like, witch, vampire, and it's like, your little spells, and she's like, I could kill you with one look. And like, that's the fun of the dynamic, where it's like they're begrudging parts of this group that at the end of the day are in concert. But it's like, I don't really like you all that much. It's like, I don't care for you either. I would let you die. Like, that's the vibe.
Yeah.
And that would work going into season 5 with the trajectory they take. That line in season 4 just doesn't gel, in my opinion, with their relationship.
Season 3 doesn't even end with them on the best of terms because he turns her mother into a vampire and ruins the few baby steps that she and Abby had made at repairing their relationship.
Because guess what? The moment she gets turned and she loses her connection to magic, she's like, I'm abandoning my daughter again. I'm out. I can't do this.
Ooh, we'll deal with that in the body episode.
Let's just get into season 6, because at the end of season 5, it is Bonnie and Damon trapped on the other side and getting sucked away to Lord knows where. So we'll just real quick run through the season 5 rap sheet, and maybe this will bring up some stuff we missed. Episode 2, bludgeoning Jesse for no apparent reason. This is Kendrick Sampson. He and Caroline were vibing. He's talking to Elena? And I think Elena had been... No one was able to account for Elena's, like, whereabouts at the time. And meanwhile, she was just, hanging out with Jesse. They were either lighting a fire. It was like a campus bonfire thing. And so he's got a stick in his hand that he's about to, like, throw on the pile. And him and Elena talking. And Damon rushes in, conks his head against the wall, falls down to the ground. And it's like, what? And I think Elena or Caroline, whoever's in there, is like, what the hell? And he's like, what? Like, I care. So, that's that. Episode 5. He snaps Stefan's neck as part of a plan with Silas. It's to give Silas back his psychic powers because Kitsia linked them. He then feeds Katherine to Silas so that Silas can be cured of immortality. Episode 6. He kills 2 travelers who are attempting to stop him from killing Silas because they want to kill Silas at the right time. They need him. Episode 9, killing 7 Augustine Society members in a flashback, abandoning Enzo in a flashback. I don't particularly care about Enzo, but I think it's kind of messed up. Everything to do with the Whitmore family. All caps. Episode 11, Judge, you can rule on this, mentally torturing Katherine on her deathbed. I feel like that was excessive.
Deserved. I think any sympathy Katherine might have gathered in those final days in her original body are done away when she decides, I'm going to put myself inside of Elena. And then beyond that, I am going to enter into a relationship with Stefan where presumably for the rest of our time together, I will be impersonating Elena forevermore, using her body to get with him. She's a villain at the end of the day. And I like that the writers, as much as they might humanize her,
they don't shy away from that.
Yeah, they don't shy away from the fact that she is evil.
Unlike with certain characters. Anyway. So stricken. Episode 12 kills Aaron Whitmore because Katherine Lena broke up with him. Episode 13, kidnapping and torturing Jeremy so that Bonnie will locate Wes, because after they've killed Aaron, they're like, one more Whitmore. Well, no, Wes isn't a Whitmore, is he? He's not like his uncle.
He's an Augustine person, but he's not a Whitmore.
Yeah. And then in that same episode, he kills a vampire that Wes created. Episode 14, he kills this couple. Well, both him and Enzo kill this couple that are in the house. This is while he's been infected with the Ripper virus. And then kills them again as vampires to, like, feed off of them. And assumedly there are more people that they've been killing along the way to, like, keep his Ripper hunger satiated so that he doesn't then feed on Enzo. Episode 16 threatens to kill Matt to escape, I guess, the Salvatore cellar. Elena's like in her Ripper era and everybody's handling it, and Damon's like, only I can handle it, let me the hell out of here. Episode 17, maiming Liv Parker for trying to kill Elena. Yeah, he puts Liv's hand in a vice at the school and like crushes it repeatedly. Also, it was because like Damon and Elena had just broken up and they were in their like toxic breakup era. I just hated everything that was happening. Even Liv was like, God, just kill me if this is what's gonna be happening. She did not want to be there. Episode 19, we find out he killed Maggie, Enzo's old, not flame. She was just a doctor who was nice to him.
Nurse Crush. Oh, she's a doctor. Dr. Crush.
He killed Maggie and framed Stefan for it. He kills her in the Ripper way. Enzo's like trying to kill Stefan for it in present day, and it turns out it's Damon's fault, and it's like, I don't... Episode 21, he tortures a passenger townsperson. And episode 22, he threatens Bonnie with a fire poker because Stefan's dead, as if Bonnie isn't already trying to bring her back. So like, yeah, didn't love her enough, clearly, if he's like, you better bring back my brother or else.
Oh, he bullies Bonnie a lot in this season because she's the anchor and has no magic. At one point, while threatening her, he even says, you don't have your magic wand to wave around anymore.
Yeah! Let's talk about that, because it's like the moment she can't drop you with a look, now you can unleash your antagonism. Yeah, no, he loves Bonnie. He really does. And then, like, 24 travelers at the end explodes them with a car to get the MFG back from the other side. So, that wraps it up. Season 6, not a lot to talk about, but we'll start with the obvious, which is that Damon and Bonnie end up in this prison world run by the Gemini Coven. And so Damon and Bonnie are here living the same day over and over for like roughly 4 months. Throughout this, we have learned that off-screen Damon and Bonnie have become friends. This will be touted as like a real big thing. I'm actually going to reserve my comments on this one because I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. I don't want to catch shit from the Bayman shippers, because that's another thing that also happened, is that like people thought this was then going to set the romantic path for Bayman, because in the books there is like way down the line a romance between Damon and Bonnie. Bonnie, who is not recognizable in the book to who she is in the show. But
yeah, Bonnie McCullough, our ginger Celtic descended girl. Prison World Damon and Bonnie is interesting for the fact that while people had said, oh, deep down Damon has some connection with Bonnie, they said it like once or twice. They hadn't really been trying to force that onto the audience in the previous seasons. They definitely end season 5 not liking each other as the other side is collapsing around them.
They're literally like, could be worse people to be trapped with, and then they clasp hands.
Yeah,
so I like that aspect
like
of it.
Bonnie is like, I'm sure there's like a million people we'd rather be with, but
yeah,
she offers Damon her hand, and Damon's like, nah, a couple of thousand at most.
I think that's fine. I think that's fine without all the other BS from before that's like pretending they have this close relationship. It's like, I like this.
Yeah, I'm fine with them being not enemies, but like people who don't like each other but work together.
Right, exactly. And then through forced proximity, they become friends.
Which is understandable.
Literally no one for miles. The only real Damon thing there is to discuss here, I guess, outside of like his burgeoning relationship with Bonnie, is the quote worst thing he's ever done.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what comes up in this era, right?
Oh, that.
So, a story told by Damon to Bonnie in the prison world. They talk about the 90s. Another, again, a retcon in which Damon's humanity is off and he comes to town to do some bad things. Stefan has not been speaking to him for some time. I assume because of the Lexi thing. It's only been 20 years since that, so I have to assume that's why. Damon's like, yeah, who cares about all that? Let me back in. It's my house. And Stefan's like, no, I have family here now. I have friends. I'm trying to live a normal life. I can't have your shit ruining this town. I can't have you hurt people. Eventually him and nephew Uncle Zach, who's here about the same age, even though it's 15 years ago, are like, maybe it's better we just have him here where we can keep an eye on him. I don't know. So they let him in and they let him stay. And they say, provided you don't feed from people in town, you don't kill anybody. And he's like, for sure. Believe it or not, Damon starts doing his usual shit. Damon immediately starts feeding on people, compelling people to forget. He's trying to get to Liz Forbes at this point, who also, same actress, but like 20 years ago.
With a wig.
And Stefan's like, bruh, you promised. And Damon's like, yeah, but also I don't care. I can't remember what escalates the situation. It's always to prove a point, isn't it, with Damon? It's to be like, I'm a vampire and there's nothing you can do about that. You keep trying to make me better. I'm never going to be better. All that stupid bullshit. And then he's got Gail, not Gail Salvatore because they weren't married. Lord knows. They were living in sin. He's got Gail by the throat. He's already fed from her. She's like very visibly pregnant. And he's holding her neck with his hand in that way that's clear that somebody's neck's about to get snapped. And Stefan's pleading with him like, no, dude, don't. What are you doing? This is not necessary. You could just leave. Like, what was the point of coming to make amends if you're just here to cause trouble and then kill people? And he's like, alright, because I want to. And then he snaps Gail's neck. And that's supposedly the worst thing Damon's ever done. Like half a season after we've learned about the Whitmore stuff. That's the worst thing he's ever done.
The Whitmore stuff, the Caroline stuff, it's just like, I get that they're trying to say, oh, Damon took a completely innocent human life, an unborn child, nestled in her mother's womb, and that is the most reprehensible thing that this vampire could ever have done. And I'm like, I'm not saying that it's better than some of the other things he's done, but it certainly doesn't feel any worse. To me, at least. Wiping out someone's family systematically, allowing them to continue to grow and then coming back and decimating them again, traumatizing someone by making them think that they're cursed to have all their relatives die, doing this while you were with Elena, a girl who you know values human life and wouldn't approve, murdering Jeremy because Elena upset you, trying to murder Matt because he happened to be alive, killing Vicky and turning her into a vampire out of boredom.
I think Kai even says, because Kai Parker's here in this prison world, is like, because they're talking about the massacre of his family, it's like, what's a couple of people I killed in a massacre to someone who's killed a pregnant woman? It's like, what are we talking about? Where are we?
It certainly shows that the writers, I think at this point, they clearly think that this is the worst thing a person could do, murdering a pregnant woman, which, fine, okay, you feel that way. There's a through line where Lily Salvatore doesn't kill Joe because Joe is like, I'm pregnant! And then she's like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna... So, fine. But it strikes me as... not funny, haha, but funny, that after everything they've made Damon do, they needed to get to a point where, I don't know, maybe he's redeeming himself this season, and it's like, can you be redeemed from the worst thing you've ever done? And they were like, well, we've run out of stuff now. What more could we say about this man that could be seen as bad? What more can we add to his backstory?
That's my question.
He's already a Confederate soldier. We can't make him a Nazi. Let's say he killed a pregnant woman. That'll do it.
That really is it, right? Is that like, because he's convinced himself in a feat of unimaginable self-importance, he's convinced himself that this is his own personal hell and that Bonnie's just on the ride with him. Kai and Bonnie, I guess Kai largely because he's curious and he has nothing better to do, is like, why do you think this is your personal hell? Like, what did you do so bad in 1994, May 23rd or May 10th or whatever, that was so awful? And it's honestly, as a writing thing, it's such a contrivance to be like, the day that Kai was massacring his family across the country, Damon was killing Gail, and they just so happened to be trapped in this prison world. It's like, we're going to so many lengths creating this contrived plot. Why don't we just reflect on something that Damon has done that we already know about?
There's no shortage.
There's no shortage if we want to play in the space of Damon coming back from the worst thing he's ever done. But none of that makes sense in the context of the prison world in 1994. So we have to invent a new thing that's worse than the already bad things he's done. It's just I don't know. And then he's telling Bonnie this whole story, or Kai, I can't remember at this point, but like he talks about how it was a relief to kill Zach because he was a reminder of the worst thing he's ever done. In the same fashion of the Lexi retcon. It's like, oh, he actually killed these people because they were reminders of the worst thing. It's like, shut the hell up! Stop trying to make excuses for this man!
And
I can't stand it.
It's this weird loop because I'm like, you are adding more reprehensible things to Damon's backstory that are gonna make us hate him more. But you think that you're adding reasons to excuse the horrible things we already know he's done. It's like, no, I didn't kill Lexi just because she happened to be a vampire in town when I needed to murder one to excuse my own nonsense. I killed her because I tricked her into sleeping with me one time and left on a rooftop to die because I was irritated that my brother sent his friend to help me, and that's why I needed her gone. And it's like, no, I didn't murder Zach because he happened to be standing there when Caroline let me out. I killed him because I murdered his partner, an unborn child, and I felt really bad about it every time I saw him, so I had to kill him so I wouldn't think about it anymore.
It's the meme with Chidi from The Good Place going, that's worse. You do see how that's worse, right? Like...
Yes! You know, now I want a fanfic where Chidi meets Damon.
Oh, God. And then... to top it all off, because we're in the business of misery, we're in the business of looping back to things that we keep doing with Damon in cycles. Bonnie must now sit there. Bonnie Sheila Bennett must sit there and tell Damon, I think you're punishing yourself for things in your past. And I think that shows that actually you're a good person. And actually you're gonna make it back. You're fighting to get back to Elena. And that's why we're gonna make it up. It's just like, just shoot me in the back of the head. You'll end me quicker than having Bonnie now be his altar of morality and of goodness because Elena's not here to do it. Just slit my throat now. Just throw me off a balcony. Shove me off the balcony like Cole. Leave me in the sun to die like Lexi. Like, I can't be here for this.
I really tried so hard. To any of our listeners who are Delena stans or just Damon fans, I tried so hard
sorry, but
to find little rays of light in the toxic storm cloud that is Damon blotting out the sun. But by the time we get past season 5, it is very hard. The writers, and I've said it before, the writers keep finding worse things for him to do because they think it's interesting when Damon falls off the wagon or is revealed to be bad, but they need to do worse things because he's already done bad things and they have told us that he's been forgiven. So now it needs to be something worse, something more unforgivable. And it gets to a point where I'm like, I just don't like this character anymore.
He sucks!
And I want to like him.
He sucks.
I want to have this cool little love triangle where he's Elena's other option, even if he's not the option I want. But I can't, in good conscience, root for this man anymore.
Truly, it sucks to be. I joked earlier of like I was disillusioned with Elena, so honestly, maybe they deserve each other, they can go off. It sucks that I now have to write off this character that I like. I like Elena for so long in the show. We joke that like, oh, Elena, the real main characters, whatever. I have come to appreciate, I did already, and I've come to appreciate Elena a lot more rewatching the show as an older person. It makes it that much worse that beyond like halfway season 5, I just have to write her off because the Damon stuff, the Elena stuff, I just want no part of it. I truly want nothing to do with it. He sucks so bad in a way that you really... Most of the things that we address about him are things you normally, just as a person who doesn't get the grace Damon does, would not be able to come back from.
Yeah.
And yet he continually is brought back from these things. And they stack up so high. You would think at some point the tower's got to fall down. No.
And especially because as a vampire, a lot of the stuff Damon does is because of his superpowers. One of the worst of which is his compulsion, his ability to control people, to get away with what he's doing because these people are helpless against the mental shenanigans. And like you said, any other character who isn't given the grace that he's given is like, this is terrible. We can all see this is terrible and scary. This is not a person we can root for. No matter how human you make them, they are bad. I think of Kilgrave from Jessica Jones, a man who has mind control powers. Even as the season in which he's a main character progresses and we learn about his backstory and why he is the way he is, the story is never like, but shame, Kilgrave is redeemable. He's not a bad person. Like, he has a bad day and then does bad things. It's like, no, this man has used his ability to control people to do horrible things, taking away consent, traumatizing people forcing other people to commit murder in his name, and he's bad. He's bad, and we want you to know he's bad. We want you to see how terrifying this is. With Damon, it's like, no, this is just the bumps in the road of someone's love story.
Kilgrave is such a good comparison because obviously with Kilgrave, right? For anyone who doesn't know, yeah, Kilgrave, the main villain of the Jessica Jones show, and then obviously in the comics, he's like the Purple Man. He's exclusively like mental powers, full mind control. He's so powerful. And there's also an element of that, to bring it back to a place of Damon, of like mind control as sexual assault and used in sexual assault.
Yes.
And in the exploration of Kilgrave, when he's present in the show, we go back to him as a child with these powers because he's had these powers since he was very, very young. And there is nuance in the exploration of Kilgrave that, like, did Kilgrave stand a chance when, as a child, he had the ability to make anyone do what he wants? Can Kilgrave discern between, are his interactions with people ever real, or are they all part of his mind control? When that's just been his experience since he was like 5 years old. And can he be held fully responsible for having that power as an instinctual tool in the way he moves through life, through human socialization, through interactions, and in the way that he just, gets ahead in life? When he's had that power, when that power has been his experience fully. And the answer isn't no, right? The answer isn't, like you say, the answer isn't, well, Kilgrave had a traumatic childhood and these powers messed him up, therefore, actually he's all right. At the end of that, they show that actually Kilgrave will never grow beyond that. There's a storyline of him trying to help Jessica Jones in like her hero pursuit.
Yes.
And it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you go, this is weird. And at the end of it, it's like, yeah, no, with the way that he acts and the way that he treats people and views people, he's too far gone. There's no coming back for this. And at the end, Jessica kills him.
Jessica, even during that brief, let's collab and see if I can make you a hero thing.
Yeah.
She has a moment where after Kilgrave saves this man who was gonna murder his family, Kilgrave is like, let your family go, and then the man does, and he's like, okay, now put the gun in your mouth, and Jessica's like, no, we're not gonna kill this person. This is not how you do it. No. And eventually Kilgrave does spare the man, and when they speak about it later on, Kilgrave is like, oh no, Jessica, like, I almost made a man kill himself today because I genuinely thought that was the right thing to do. And Jessica has this moment where she sits there and she's like,
oh shit.
That's true. I'm never going to be able to harness this man's power for good and then walk away. I will have to babysit him for the rest of his life because he can't be fixed.
That's not a feasible process. That's not a worthwhile thing to do. And the thing with Damon is that we don't reach that conclusion. We get to the point, the Kilgrave point of, this is how I choose to use my power, my mental compulsion, my physical strength, my vampirism. This is how I move through life. And we never get to a point of, this is no longer feasible in the way I want to live my life. We instead go the route of, well, this is acceptable. we reach a conclusion that would have been reached if Damon demonstrated that actually, hey, here's all my childhood trauma. Here's now my path to becoming a better person. Damon headlines to the Kilgrave point, but is treated as though he's reached some sort of healing or some sort of turnaround. And that's always going to be the issue. So, yeah. I think that's probably the best place to leave it for now, I think. On that note, Judge, I move for another recess. This case is proving tougher than we expected, and I think it deserves the full weight and time that it needs.
Yes. Motion granted. Or whatever a real judge would say.
You didn't look it up in the 2 weeks?
I'm not a real judge.
Take your judge job seriously.
I'm here on nepotism because I'm part of the founding families. I did not earn my way into office, much the way the Lockwoods always seem to be mayors.
We're old money animal attack. We run the whole council. We're everyone in the court. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. But yes, to you, dear listeners, members of the jury, thank you for sitting through another session. Hopefully, it's just one more. And you won't have to listen to us, but me specifically, just be so angry and so mad and so tired. If you have any thoughts, any questions, any submissions to evidence that we might have missed, make sure to email that to us at animalattackpod@gmail.com. You can also tweet us at animattackpod. That's at ANIM Attack Pod. You'll find a link tree in our bio that has all of our online stuff. And yeah, let us know if you're enjoying the trial. I don't know. I truly on a whim was like, let's do this a little bit differently, but not that differently. If that's the kind of thing you enjoy, let us know. Otherwise, we're probably going back to form after this. But yeah, other than that, court is once again briefly adjourned. Cheers.
Cheers.